Good evening, travelers of the night. You've bravely wandered into the world of Roll for Impact, where every dice roll echoes through the corridors of fate, and every choice may just be your last. I'm your guide, your storyteller, the weaver of tales that will chill your spine and grip your very soul, Wesley. But you can call me Wes. Welcome to our first public campaign of The Stranger. So, who are we? Roll for Impact is a narrative-focused Dungeons & Dragons actual play group. We invite audiences to a collaborative, immersive world crafted by like-minded storytellers, populated with charming characters who live out tales of suspense, excitement, and adventure, and in this case, a little bit of horror. We aim to produce a deep, atmospheric, immersive story with rich worlds suspending your disbelief, if not just for a moment, through intricate plots involving player-driven decisions and narratives. With us today is Ari, Shane, Asteria, and Matt, who will be playing characters we'll introduce throughout the session. Either way, let's get into our session. I'm going to start by playing the intro. We'll take a moment to get ready, and I'll get right into describing the first scene. And just so you know, Ari, you're going to be the first on deck. With two shallow footsteps, you hear crunching beneath your boots, a sound that contrasts the hollow gusts of wind. The air is heavy, thick in your lungs, and carries with it a sharp, acrid tang, the unmistakable burn of salt. You lick your dry lips. The taste is putrid, both salted and spoiled. The few puddles you stumble upon are viscous, a syrupy consistency that clings to any object it touches. As you look into the murky reflection in the puddle, where your once smooth skin adorned your face, a grotesque scar now sprawls from your temple to your chin. It's not just a simple line or a healed wound. It's a labyrinth horror. The skin twisted, puckered, gnarled like melted wax. Esperanza Boira. Please describe your character with the understanding of what you're looking and what's reflecting back at you.
Esperanza is very hunched over, sort of seeming to be tipping towards this puddle with their whole body. It's shaggy, curled, and seemingly chopped up, a bob of curly hair moving around her face as these blue eyes seem to almost be outliers in the scenery. Her brows knit in confusion and slight horror, but it doesn't seem necessarily to affect them as much as it maybe should. They almost seem like they're staring at a stranger, even though it's very clear that this short 3'9" humanoid is looking at what should by all means be a reflection of themselves. Dressed a little androgynously, button-up slacks, boots tucked in. Definitely not making the appearance of a lady, even though it is quite clear that from a purely physical perspective, this was somebody who was born female. But it's almost like they're in a daze.
Your eyes capture this desolation in stark detail. You're standing in a city, the wind picking up around you. By your side, a massive wall looms over your head. You stand surrounded by buildings that are encrusted, their facades sparkling in the eerily dim light, the salt encrusting them. The trees, or what skeletal remains are left, are thickly coated also in this gleaming salt crystal. They clink like chandeliers in the wind. The ground is littered with remnants of life that once thrived here. Discarded toys, rusted bicycles, and even the stray remains of pets, forever frozen in their last moments. Their forms, though distorted, tell a tale of a rapid end, caught completely unaware. The only light that illuminates is a harsh beam that crosses an alleyway ahead of you. What would you like to do?
Their eyes scan around at all of this kind of scenery. And they, for a moment, take out a look at their hand, almost to check as if it's still there, and they can see the veins on the overside of their hand and the slight yellowing of her fingers, and it's like she's assessing the normalcy of it before it lowers again. And a quick glance here, there, and then towards the light. It seems that she's made up her mind that it is the only direction to really go in, and she will approach that direction.
You head down the glistening cobblestones, and you get to the corner of the alleyway. You look at the storefronts that litter each side, destroyed, damaged, and covered. And down the hall, you see what you expected from this place. At first glance, the light cast is blinding. It's nearly impossible to discern shape, except it oscillates, defying all natural laws of form, between haunting shadow and radiant brilliance. There you see a spire that claws from the earth, silhouetted by the light behind it. The cold stone beneath your feet pulses softly, rhythmic yet inconsistent, as if the earth's heart itself is beating. You know this place, or at least you've heard of it. This is Crow Perch, the Citadel, the mysterious city, a city whose walls have long been closed to the public. What would you like to do?
I have a name in mind, do I not?
You may.
My reason for being here is very clear. And it is the only direction that I have. I have a name, and I think I remember the address correctly. I have to get there. I have to find this person. So it is time to start looking.
You continue down the path, the salty crust beneath your feet crunching inconsistently. But then suddenly a different sensation. A soft give to a footstep, followed by an unsettling crack. Your heart skips a beat as you instinctively look down. Beneath your boot, a partially obscured layer of salt and dust, lies a form all too familiar, unmistakable even. a human. A hollowed-out silhouette formed entirely of salt. Its arms lay by its side, its face turned upwards. But where the chest would have been solid and raised, now there's a cavernous indentation, your foot unwittingly crushing it, causing the salt encasement to crumble, revealing a cavernous void.
There's a quick back step made, and they stop, and it seems like they can't stop they can't do anything but stare at this visage before them, and quickly, after that moment of frozen shock, they reach to their side and they start clawing for their night vision nova so that they can scramble them onto their face. Breathing a little bit heavy.
You do so, and with the added visibility, you can see the worn cobblestone underfoot, leading you to a dimly lit sign. Dr. Neville Pettyfogger.
There's a sidestep around this body, kind of doing the speedy walk to get away from it, as if they're in that rush, but for some reason they feel like they don't want to make the full sprint to get to the door. Walking as fast as possible.
You get to the building, and you see that the windows are fogged. It's just reflecting your face. The door seems to be barred shut, pieces of wood hanging over the doorway. You could lean in to see more inside if you like, or you can do something else. What would you like to do?
Check the side. Look at the door. Around. Bam, 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 knocking right on the door. Doctor?
Your knocks echo from inside. Building feels hollow and cavernous. You hear the knocks come back at you with a reverberation. It's dead silent. All you hear is the echoes of wind that caverns through the city.
Shit. She'll move with that same expedited walk to see if there's a way around the building into an alley, see if there's maybe a door at the back that she could try. Maybe even a staircase in case there's an apartment to climb up to.
You get to the back, and you do see a door. It's typical for dense cities like this. The door in the back seems to be slightly ajar. Inside, though, it's very dark.
There's a moment of warily seeming as if she's deciding to knock, then she pauses, opens the palm, and pushes on the door, peering inside. Doctor, are you at home?
As you lean into the doorway to peer inside, the dim room seems to merge with the night's darkness outside. You try to scan about, and your night vision novas help with that, giving a greenish tint but making everything more visible, even if just slightly. There, inside, you see a figure silhouetted. Seems to be completely motionless. The glasses you're wearing, the novas, they don't seem to illuminate detail.
Doctor? Is that... And as she's saying this, she's stepping slowly into the room to try and make out the figure just a little better. I saw your clipping and the sign. You're taking patients?
You see, as you approach ever so slightly, pale flesh, eyes wide open, and a silent scream stretching its features as if frozen in time, as though it had been there, watching and waiting for this very moment to reveal itself. The chill of this unexpected visage sends a jolt down your spine, causing every hair on your neck to stand, and as you recoil just a little bit, you slip and fall onto the ground backward, hitting your head on the pavement. And with that, you're jolted awake as your head slips off of your hand that's been propping it up on the windowsill. You don't remember going to sleep. Sleep, after all, is a concept that has always been fleeting to you anyway. Yet, you can almost still feel that acrid taste of salt on your lips, a piercing migraine at your scalp, the gentle rocking of the old vessel, her royal rose, beckoning you back to the world of the living.
Reach down to where they thought they left their novas before they had fallen asleep. At first, initially checking right immediately to their side where they would normally keep them, but then having to pause and go, wait, I should have taken them off of me and they should be next to me. Kind of as a means of seeming to reorient in the solidarity of the room.
A man sitting next to you picks up the novas from the ground. You reached for them, then dropped them. Here you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
You recognize this man. His name is Mr. Augie. He's been escorting you all of this time. And with that, he puts his hand around your arm, speaking up. You alright? He's squeezing a bit harder than normal. You sure that was your first dose for the day?
It was my first dose for the day. Look, here. I'm just gonna move to a pack and pull out this little case of vials. And it's clear in there that 4 of those vials out of 10 are empty, and that there's 6 that are still full. It was my first today. I'm just getting back into it. It takes a bit.
Alright. I'm gonna go get a coffee. You want one?
Yes. Please.
He stands up, leaving you alone in your seat, and walks down the alleyway towards the galley where some food and drink is available. You're left alone there, and as you look around, you see a number of people sitting silently. This is the common space after all, a small table in front of you. You do have a room. It sleeps only 2, and that's where you would be staying with Mr. Augie.
What does it look like outside?
There's a gentle patter of rain just outside the window. You see the drops sliding down the glass, and there's slow drones of metal and timber as the ship sways in the sea.
Better than it was 5 minutes ago. I'll take it. Peer around, kind of become, if possible, even more closed in and hunched over on this railing. Kind of rubs their arms a bit as if they're cold. Coffee.
Here you go. He sits back down next to you, putting the cup down. It doesn't look like good coffee. If anything, it's cheap. And you see his cup is actually looks a lot better. It's nicely decorated, ceramic instead of paper. He mixes it with a small silver spoon and adds milk to his. You don't have that luxury.
The side eye is minimal. Like a moment of recognition before Esper takes the cup, eyes on him, and just downs it immediately.
Utilitarian. I guess it serves a purpose. You know, you could try to enjoy it.
I could, but when I don't get any cream or sugar, what's to enjoy?
Fair enough. By the way, I know we said you'd be heading straight to Dr. Neville, but there's another doctor on the island you need to see first to be put on his case. A formality. I'm sure you don't mind.
Well, I do mind. But, like I talked with the doctor, I'm sure. If I have to do it, I have to do it. If it's possible, could we just try to make sure that we're in and we're back out as soon as we can be?
It's up to the doctor, of course. He has to okay your visit to Dr. Neville. Just a formality, Dr. Faust.
Yeah. Alright. We'll do these fucking formalities.
As this is going on, we go somewhere else. There's a haze of cigarette smoke that perpetually clouds these hallways. The lighting is ornate. It illuminates everything. It has an incandescent hum. There's a busy chatter amongst the crew and its passengers. The assistant who's been escorting you all of this time looks overwhelmed. His pageboy cap is slightly crooked. White tufts of unkempt hair poke out from the sides. He walks anxiously, but so does everybody else on the ship right now. You see him looking back at you, trying to make sure you're keeping pace. You pass by rows of doors and first-class cabins, paintings on the wall. All of it looks expensive, ornate rugs as well. A stark contrast to the common quarters you had to walk through to get here. You see that things don't seem to be going all too well on the ship, but it had a rough start to begin with more crew and more passengers than were expected. The door's just up ahead, ma'am. Apologies for the chaos, Doctor. When we set sail, the tides of task rise high. It's not always this frenzied, I promise. Your quarters are just up ahead. I hope you find them to your liking, despite the rush. And you hear the footsteps of your bodyguard just a few steps behind you. The powerful steps echo through the halls, if not just with a slight arrhythmia. As you move through the halls, weaving through the frantic crew dotting to and fro, you take out a pocket mirror and give yourself a look over. Dr. Isadora Glass, would you please describe your character?
Dr. Isadora Glass is a woman in what we might politely call late middle age. Her once dark curls are streaked steely gray, and though she's not particularly wrinkled or hunched, she does walk with the support of a lovely cane with a seemingly antique silver handle. She has a very upright posture and that sort of bird-like build. She looks like someone who was made to practice piano for hours as a child and probably believes more children should have to do that now. At first, she is no doubt a bit forbidding in appearance, but as she looks up at the person who enters the room, they can see into her eyes, green-gray pools you either want to fall into or don't want to look into at all. And it's clear why the doctor is such a celebrated alienist. People want to talk to her. She looks at her pocket watch, and she looks up, those eyes seeming to take in everything, though her body is very still.
You see this assistant moving ahead of you frantically through the halls, and as he turns a corner, there's a loud crash that begets the entire hallway as he bumps into one of the waiters who is coming with a tray of expensive drinks.
Careful now. I hope those weren't meant for us.
You imbecile! The waiter expresses. The assistant, he just tries to brush it off. Oh, I'm sorry. One moment. And he begins helping to pick up some of the pieces and put them on the tray along with the waiter. Just one moment, please. After gathering the pieces from the ground, he stands up. Right this way. Walks past the waiter and gets to a door. The assistant opens it expectingly to walk in with Dr. Glass and says, sorry, and closes the door right away. Trevor actually has been traveling behind you this time. Along with you, you're heading together to go see your room. It seems like something didn't go quite as planned. We'll go somewhere else. You carefully scan text. Mundane work for most, but not for you. You study the same book 100 times over. You've held it so many times you could recognize every single fold in the pages and emboss of gold in the cover. Its pages have been written over thoroughly through years of study. It's hard to tell where the notes end and where the text begins. Just to the right of you, it's a suitably comfortable bed. Your writing desk displays a sprawling of belongings that you've unpacked for the trip to Port Hillcrest. A trip much shorter than the months you've spent at sea already traveling to make it this far. On your bed, a breastplate laid out, heavily worn from travel, a healer's kit. On your desk, an ink and an inkwell for your studies. And also on your bed, a small paper package, still unopened, recently offered by a messenger upon boarding her Royal Rose. The small, double room you find yourself in isn't the private quarters you were promised for this trip, but for a humble man of God such as yourself, a man of the cloth, it's easy to overlook. As your eyes focus from lines of code on the sacred Testimonium Veritas, you see your reflection in the magnifying glass that you're holding. Nihilus von Stonen, please describe your character.
Her name is indeed Nihilus von Stonen. I'm a human of average height, a clerical wizard, with red Prince Charming-like hair and stout petite-like vigor. A sharp face with a black curly sweet mustache. When one would look at Nihilus, you would clearly see that his attire speaks volumes. A long overhanging black coat, classy, with a clerical white collar, symbolizing a religion definitely of devotion. Underneath he wears a colorful yet expensive three-piece suit, and balancing in between those is a closed vest, like a cherry on top, finishing this expensive professional suit he wears, a book connected to a chain on the hip of his belt pockets, normally only seen by the brief waves of the sea, throwing a vid into his heavy coat, like blowing out the smell of ink in the wind that seems to have been stained on the inside of his coat as well. And the opposite side of his hip is a chained metal device, round in shape, a simple pocket watch, but why would he need haste, one might wonder. And lastly, your eye is pulled like a burning sun on a high noon, impossible to ignore. There, towards the center of his chest, hangs a golden, chained, forest green holy cross. Nihilus clutches the holy cross strongly with both of his hands, as in silence prayer.
You finish the last line of your studies for the day. Lux veritas nos semper ducat. May the light of truth always guide us. Carefully, you place the felt page marker between the pages and close the book. Now, for that package.
It's about time I should open this. Had it for a couple of days now, but... And slowly he does, unwrap it carefully, structurally, curiously.
Its contents are incredibly neatly packaged. The paper is folded with such careful intention, not a wrinkle on it, even though it's been held by presumably many to get it to you. Inside, there's a very bizarre little piece of technology. It's a handheld device, but it has a sling over the side, presumably to hold it over your shoulder. It's crude, hand-machined parts. A round speaker protrudes from a metal grill, and another cloth-wrapped cable has a funnel-shaped mouthpiece at the end. While you're not unfamiliar with communications devices in general, a relatively modern technology, this one looks artisanally made, custom-made even. There's no note to be found.
By the breach of truth, this must be a sign at the least. A device like such, for me. It's clearly powered by the sun. I should keep it on, although I'm so far away by home. All alone. As before. Whew. He takes a deep breath, and he clips it to the belt. Although there's a lingering moment to his thoughts, he doesn't want to stand out even more than he already does. Yet, he feels like this is something important. After all, it's given to him.
For a moment, your door bursts open, and you see one of the ship's crew look at you in the eyes, and then briskly close the door. On the outside, Dr. Glass, he turns to you. "Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Glass. I realize you paid top dollar for a private room for yourself and Mr. Trevor, but there seems to be a mix-up of some kind, and this bed, one of them is already taken. I could look into it, but right now things are a bit hectic, and I might just have to downgrade one of you to common lodging, just for now until we get this sorted out."
A bit hectic to tell me who I'm sharing a bed with tonight?
Yes, I do know many of the members who are aboard this vessel. One moment. He opens the door again. Sir, could you please tell me your name?
Nihilus von Stonen. Although, is there some kind of trouble? Can I assist?
No trouble at all. Thank you, Nihilus. You're just fine. You'll be staying in this room. Let me figure this one out.
If there are any issues, I'm happy to be of service.
As you're saying that, he closes the door again. A bit rudely, but you can tell his hectic nature is kind of shared with many on the crew right now. Mr. Von Stonen is a man of the cloth. Perfectly good roommate to share your accommodations with for the trip. That is, either one of you. I don't want to presume on who would be staying with him.
You don't want to presume. I believe it's a little late for that. But what is happening here?
Well...
No, we need so few things, but...
Yes,
privacy is one of them.
I'll explain. There were more travelers on this ship than we expected. We had to take them on. It was just a requirement from the island itself. And one of them took on a suite, one of the most expensive rooms, and it seems to have shuffled around a few of the travelers. So, with that, you have a roommate, and unfortunately one of you will have to be downgraded.
Yes, young man, I assumed you would say the problem was that you'd taken on more people than you had rooms. The question is, why is it now my problem? Are you referring to the suite that we paid for? Do you expect me to share a bedroom with my bodyguard? I think that's hardly appropriate. Or with this strange young man of some sort of cloth?
Yes, I suppose now is also a bad time to inform you, but it seems that your luggage has been misplaced as well.
What?
We believe that it's all in the cargo hold, but the ticket number and location just don't match our records. I've been notified, and they're already looking into it. However, we'll be comping your lodging on the island until it's resolved.
And she looks at Augie and doesn't speak. She gives him a look, and there's a silence between them for a moment.
You see extreme discomfort on his eyes.
And after a moment, she breaks his gaze and says, there's nothing to be done. There's nothing to be done. So
Nihilus opens the door, and you can see him stand there. He closes the book as well he was holding. The door is not that thick. Surely there's enough room. We can figure something out. I'm happy to be of service. Whoever I would share with, I'm not much of a trouble.
well, I'm glad something on this ship isn't that thick.
Look, it is our policy that every passenger has a bed, and we unfortunately can't allow anybody to stay in this section of the ship unless there is a bed assigned to them. I would have to insist that somebody get downgraded. I don't particularly care who. Obviously I care, but there's not much that can be done at this point anyway.
What kind of downgrade? You can see I'm not the best with stairs, so if it's below decks too far, that shan't do for me, I'm afraid.
Perhaps your bodyguard, and he points over towards Trevor. Would you mind heading down to the common areas for now? We can always try to resolve this later during the course of the travel.
And she looks at Trevor, not really wanting to be separated from him, but she wants to see what he thinks.
Doctor, if I can speak, do you really trust people that work in this ship to handle your luggage? Do you really trust them to handle it with the care that it needs? Listen, I can head down into the common area. I'm no stranger to that. But, maybe I can do a little bit of legwork before I bed down for the night. I'm sure that this gentle man of God doesn't pose much of a threat, albeit maybe for conversational purposes. I can...
Terribly sorry for giving any issues at all. If I didn't need the room for space for my studies, I'd be happy to share between you and me, dear sir.
That I don't think is going to be in the cards for either one of us. I take up a bit of space.
What was that? I'm sorry, the tussling of the ship and the chaotic, I didn't quite get that.
I'm saying that if we were to bed down together, there would be an imbalance in comfort, I would think. As much as Dr. Glass's needs are fairly well stated by her, I would think.
So, Nihilus's things are out, correct?
Completely unpacked. The bed is sprawled over the writing desk. The one that's in the room has a book on it and also has a number of items there as well. He's sprawled.
Do you think she clocks the book?
Oh, certainly. It definitely looks like a religious text. That's clear.
She eyes the young man, sort of trying to get his measure. She wonders briefly if he's an instigator in this situation, as she wonders of most people. What did you say your name was, young man? Von Stonen?
Mine? Ah, yes, Nihilus. Nihilus von Stonen.
I hope that incident with the waiter wasn't providential and we're not headed for a lot of broken glass. But I seem to be your strange bedfellow, Mr. Von Stonen.
It appears so. I'm sure we can come to some sort of fair arrangement so we can enjoy this lovely trip together. Apologies for the mess I've made already. I wasn't expecting company, but I shall make due adjustments.
And she strides in and says, yes, I think you can put all of your things in that corner, and when Trevor recovers mine, we'll defined spot for them. I do have professional needs as well. I will be working on my book for most of the journey.
Well, you and me seem to be sharing a common passion in that case. I also seem to be working on my book, although for me it is rewriting so many times. So are you a writer?
Yes, some people have even heard of my most recent book. I write on the psychology of humans, and particularly in the aspects of our minds, our souls that are silenced, unvoiced. My latest book made a bit of a stir, I think. Not that most people have read it or understood it, but everyone knows there are some saucy bits in there, so I'm popular these days.
By devotion's true, that seems quite intimate then. I'm afraid I'm not familiar with the work, as I'm not familiar with these lands themselves.
Intimacy unvoiced, the dual self's role in primal relations. You've never heard of that? Where do you hail from, Mr. Von Stoner?
The lands of Keenstone. Up to the west, well, southwest, to be more exact, of Saberman.
I thought it had been published there, but perhaps it's...
It's fusingly possible. It could be that I seem to have not been caught up. It's been a long road for me. Sir, and he points towards the servant of the ship.
Yes, I would leave you to your rooms. I do have to, unfortunately, attend to another matter regarding the captain of House Meridial. I hope everything is okay between all of you now, and Mr. Trevor, if you could head down to the common quarters. There's no assigned spaces. You just grab a bunk that's available.
Sure. Miss Dr. Glass's belongings, you say that they're down in the storage?
Yes, indeed, and it is accessible if you'd like to go search for yourself.
Well, I travel pretty light. I'll stop by the common area, drop my stuff off, then I'll see about your stuff, Doctor.
That actually sounds like a perfect idea. Do poke around the storage, looking for our things, and we'll discuss when you return.
Right. I hate sailing. Ugh. It's gonna kind of give a little... Mr. Von Stone and Doctor. He's just gonna kind of shuffle up the coat that he's wearing, grab his meager belongings, and head out.
Let me join you out of this hallway. I'll give you, Sir Doctor, Miss Doctor, some time to unpack and get at ease. Please take a seat. I'm going to grab some fresh air.
Of course. Make yourselves comfortable. I'll be on my way. Thank you very much for understanding, given the circumstances. And he turns and rushes down the other direction in the hall.
It's funny how people thank you for understanding when you simply have no choice.
Yeah, just what I was thinking. But, whatever. I'm used to sleeping in the dirt. I'm sure that ain't much dirt to be found here. Whatever.
One might be challenged in all kinds of ways when it comes to life. I'm sure that you'll be benefited on a later time by something else that happens. Karma, so to speak. Let's just try to keep an open mind and try to make the best of our situation, shall we? What was your name again, sir? I didn't quite catch it.
You can just call me Trevor. That's what she called me. That's what she'll call me too.
Trevor. Splendid. Pleasure to meet you too, Splendid. I promise I'll not lay a finger on the doctor and be on my good behavior.
Ha! Dr. Glass laughs at the idea. She says, "Go along, Trevor, and just as the holy man says, let us both pray that someday you and I face a challenge." Wouldn't that be novel?
Yes. Well, karma is as it is, but money talks louder than karma, I think. So I think I can deal with some less than extravagant quarters, so long as I'm still getting paid for this.
In fact, take this in case anyone gives you trouble down below. And she gives him a little bit of money.
Mighty kind. I don't think that any of them down there is going to give me much trouble at all. And if they do, I'll make sure that they realize just how much you value your belongings.
Thank you as ever, Trevor.
In the meantime, we'll head back to Esper, who sits kind of stuck in this corner chair, barricaded, most likely intentionally, by her handler. And he looks back over. You faring okay?
Esper's got their head kind of tipped back against the wall and eyes closed. They seem as if they could be asleep again, but then all the same, their mouth opens. Okay as I will ever be.
I was reading through your past, your file here, just the details they give me for the trip, and I see you've actually seen this doctor before, haven't you?
Yes. Yes, I've seen him before.
What a coincidence. Small world. I have a profile here. Dr. Horatio Reginald Faust. Expertise in potions and treatments that involve supplements and chemicals.
The more he's talking about it, behind him, there are an increasing amount of subtle shifts and fidgets coming from Esper. And eventually she takes in a big breath. You could say I'm on the familiar side with some of those things.
Just so you know what to expect, the doctor is going to refer you to, your final destination. Though, if he deems that he can treat you suitably, he is able to withhold your transfer. You're aware of that, right?
Listen, I don't really know what that file says right now. And I know you probably don't have any power over the situation. So just between you and me, if Dr. Faust couldn't do anything good for me in 11 years under his care, I don't think any attempts he might make to keep me are going to be in very good faith.
Well, it's not up to me. You're in the system again, so it's really up to him how he wants to proceed. Realistically, I don't even think you have much autonomy here.
You just live to make my life so much better, don't you?
Well, it's not my decision anyway. I'm just here to get you there, and then once you're in their custody, you're going to be managed by their nurses. I think you even live on site at that point. And it's really up to Mr. Faust whether you even move on from his facility, let alone seek treatment elsewhere.
You know, it does make me wonder just a little bit. Why wasn't I told earlier that I'd be checking in with Dr. Faust?
Let me see the notes here. Let's see. Okay, I see the doctor you consulted with. He put a script for you to meet Dr. Neville Pettifogger. I see here. Dr. Faust is your head physician, regardless of whether you stopped seeing him. So it looks like once you made arrangements, he was notified and said that you should go see him first. So it looks like the doctor you saw has been overruled.
Could you give me just 5 minutes to be away from you?
I'm actually supposed to be keeping an eye on you, but if you promise not to run off anywhere, I can go get another cup of coffee for myself.
Be 30 feet away from me for all I care. Give me a minute.
Sure. Just try not to disturb the other passengers. We don't want to make a scene, Esper. he stands up and he walks away, actually, to the mess hall, closing the door behind him.
Asper will begin to feverishly pace her little enclosure.
We'll head back to Mr. Trevor. Now, Nihilus, were you traveling with Trevor, or were you going for your own air?
Just down the hallway. Afterwards, they would politeful nod and share separate ways.
Trevor, you make your way down to the common quarters, and it is as loud, boisterous, and frankly uncomfortable as you might expect it to be. You get down the hall into the common quarters, and there it looks like it wasn't meant for luxury or comfort. It's a testament to efficiency, to squeezing the most out of every inch of available space. This area of the vessel, kind of hidden away below the more spacious accommodation, is a rabbit warren of narrow corridors, compact rooms, and beds. Each room has bunk beds stacked 3 high. With barely enough room for a grown man to stand, you squeeze your way through the narrow corridors past people brushing up against them. The mattresses, you can tell, are thin and worn, covered in rough, scratchy fabric that's probably seen better days. The frames creak and groan with every shift of weight of the ship, echoing the same complaints as the timber itself. Trevor, as you walk into this cramped space, every bed looks like it's taken. You go through one at a time, scanning 3 by 3 by 3. It's clearly first come, first serve, and you pass by several bunk beds that have belongings in them until finally finding one in the corner at the lowest level of the bunks that's available. And go figure, it's one with a porthole, one of the few that are in this area. There's already somebody laying on the bunk above, stretching their cot down and making the space even more narrow and small to lay in. As you look down, you can see the sea is rough today, its waves churning like blades from the ocean, and you see your reflection in the glass of the window. Trevor, would you please describe your character?
Looking back at him is this very large, burly, thick half-orc, in sharp contrast to the good doctor. This big hunk of meat stands probably about 6.5 feet tall, just shy of 300 pounds. He is tall and wide. He has quite a bit of muscle on him, but he doesn't look like a bodybuilder by any stretch of the imagination. You can see there's quite a bit of chunkiness to him. He has a bit of a gut. He's more of the farm strong, full day of work of manual labor than going back for a beer with the boys kind of strong. Currently, his face is young, probably placing him from mid to late 20s. The look on his face is one of experience. Not experience that has been given to him all his life, it's one that has kind of been bestowed on him in recent years. He has scars kind of dotting his face from various encounters. You can see, even when he's wearing his long sleeve kind of dark tan chore coat, he's got his fists wrapped up with bandage. You can see the lime green skin on him is sort of blotched with bits of gray. His face, the signature tusks of a half-orc, however, you can only see one of them kind of poking out one side of his mouth. The other seemingly has been knocked out in perhaps some encounter, giving him a slight underbite. His eyes are beady and small and can very easily give off a sense of like a persistent scowl, but you can see just the pale blueness betrays a freshness of the face. His hair is this long, kind of dark reddish color, combed back kind of messily into a mullet that goes, kind of rests at his shoulders, with a bit of scruffiness kind of framing his jawline. You see he's wearing very simple work trousers and very heavy boots that kind of make a clunk as he walks, and going through the common area was a hassle. considering how large he is and how small the area he is in, he kind of, even looking through this porthole at himself, there's the tiredness of his eyes. And even now he stands at kind of a hunch, kind of ducking underneath the bunk above him. Takes a deep breath, and you can see there's kind of a wince of pain as he does so. And gives a sigh. Lap of luxury, my ass. He's gonna just collapse into the bunk as it kind of gives a groan of the various joints and bolts kind of like groaning under the pressure as he just tries to relax for just a moment in this place where he is intensely uncomfortable.
As you peek at the window, an orcish reflection appears behind yours. Another large figure steps just barely behind you, and you hear, "Move it, half-breed! You're in my bed."
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little new here, but as far as I can tell, I don't see your name on it.
Name doesn't have to be on it. I called dibs. Name's Gus, and you're gonna move.
I'm sure you tell that to all the little boys and girls who you like to scare in the schoolyard. But, Gus, I'm trying to be real nice to y'all. I'm afraid it's first come, first serve. If I wanted a bed, I would have, hucked off any pipsqueak that laid claim to it. I could do that. And, well, since you're so familiar with schoolyard vernacular, I'm here first. Therefore, it's mine.
Roll either persuasion or intimidation, as you prefer.
Oh, first roll. Well, not particularly good at either, but we'll find out. That's a 19.
You see, as you're talking, he seems to slouch smaller and smaller. He even leans back into the bunk behind him, starting to look nervous. Oh, well, maybe it might have been the other bunk. It might have been the other bunk. Just, enjoy the trip. And he'll
Must have been another
briskly turn and start trying to get away, moving in another direction, looking for a place to sleep.
Man, I hate ships. I hate sailing. I hate the water. I hate this. And he just tosses his simple, rustic-looking knapsack at the foot of his bed. I'm not staying in here for long, I think. He's just going to gather up all the essentials that he needs, his little pocket watch, and he'll just sort of start establishing his territory, making sure no one else wants a piece of him.
As you look around, you see some of the people who were laying in the bunks around had their heads fixed on the interaction. And as you start looking around, they quickly turn their necks away so as not to incur any dissatisfaction among their new neighbor.
Place smells like fucking salt. Don't mind me, guys. Just leave a man to his business.
Outside of the ship, getting some fresh air, we find Nihilus von Stonen, who stepped down the hall and out to the wealthier exterior portion of the ship, one that's sectioned off from the common folk. Only those who paid can access. It's sparsely populated. The air is a bit humid. It doesn't feel the most comfortable outside. You can see a light mist hanging low on the sea around. But there are some, mostly people out here grabbing a smoke. Nihilus, as you step out, you look around and you can see the grandeur of the ship. Wood, metal. It is an ancient yet functional masterpiece that's clearly been upgraded through the ages that it's been in service. You see the captain's deck just above, a glass enclosed space that probably has an entrance somewhere from within. And you can see over the railing the land that the ship set sail from, already growing far in the distance, barely visible.
Nihilus, with an odd sensation as he walks around, realizing he's been actually cooped up for longer than he realized in that little bunk, scribbling on his notes, rereading so many times of his personal book. He walks around in a slow pace, aiming his way towards the edge outside, with both of his hands tied on his back. He has a slow, dramatic look around at the infrastructure, architecture, welding of how the ship has been made, like one would visit a museum and look at the arts of the creativity itself, of how many times it's been upgraded and how long it's been. As he makes his slow, dramatic steps, you can see his long, robed coat almost hovering above the floor with just a couple of inches in between. He slowly makes his way.
You walk around the ship, getting some fresh air, and you notice a few things. First of all, the exterior on the lower level, where all the commoners are allowed to go, is packed. It's almost shoulder to shoulder. It must be very uncomfortable down in the common quarters, leading everybody to take whatever fresh air they can get outside. You definitely feel a separation between yourself and them. You look up and you see the captain's quarters, the galley where the captain will command from, and in the window a small banner, not protruding like it's an official banner of the vessel, but one that represents House Meridial, that's for sure. And as you look over to the mast and to the other sections that aren't accessible to passengers, the crew and their tension seem to be slowing down ever so slightly as distance is gained, tasks are completed, and the travel, the long-term travel, starts to set in.
There's a small sense of dread that captures over him by his own sense of empathy as he looks down towards the difference between the common folk of the ship and between himself. His first reaction is to feel a sense of lucky and sense of happiness, but seeing the state of all of them down there, it's an inner struggle as he wishes he could do something, yet he realizes it would be at his own personal cost and he must stay true to some type of goal he has at the moment, which he keeps to himself. As he continues to walk around, and he notices to himself that House Meridial, their influence seems to wealth widely across, even larger than I would think. Now even the transportation to Crow's Perch is seemingly over there to me. I shall learn more about this. And he actually takes about a small common notebook that he has in his pocket and makes a couple of notable scribbles and just some helpful reminders to himself.
Inside the ship, in the quarters that you also are staying in, Dr. Glass. You've made your way in. You see Nilas's things sprawled about, encroaching just a bit into the space in between the two beds that share the room on opposite sides. What are you doing?
At first, she stands there very still and she takes it all in. Once she's sure she's alone, a shadowy hand appears and sort of nudges some of Nilas's things out of her way and into more confined territory. Then she takes a look around at his things. She, without really hesitating, she goes ahead and snoops, and without touching anything, checks out his stuff to try to figure out what kind of a man this person is. The book is of immediate interest, but she also notes the healer's kit. She wants to see anything of interest that might tell her about his personality.
Well, first and foremost, please roll a religion check. And while you're doing that, Nilas, what are some of the things that Dr. Glass is going to find among your possessions, at least those that are out in the open?
Especially those that are out in the open, it is clear that he's packed full a variety of events. It'd be odd to have a potion of healing next to a simple reading book, one would think. But the central book that is now laid out open, it has all kinds of languages in there. It's seemingly runes next to language, and then a couple of words in common. It seems to have different forms of interest, different forms of colors and deterioration, yet all of it seems to be in healthy shape, although it almost looks like it's designed that way. It's definitely a peak of interest. One of the things that are sprawled out next to it as well, it's including the healer's kit, which seems to be packed into a bag that is sitting on the floor next to the table. And actually, the closer you look, you can notice that the healer's kit is just a packing which seems to be on top of a layer. If you dare even snoop in between, but you would have to move it a bit, you might see something else. Would she?
Do I have a hint of what it might be? It was an 18 religion, by the way. Do I have any reason to believe it's something other than, like, his extra socks?
You could see that the healer's kit is made on top of a large bag. So it could be any amount of things. It could be a large amount of smaller items. It could be a couple of large items. It could be something in between. You simply can't tell since the healer's kit is laying on top, covering its sight. But the bag itself is open. One would merely need to push it aside if...
No, she wouldn't touch anything yet. She's been burned by that before, especially when the book is lying open. I think that takes more of her immediate interest.
With your religion check, you look at the book and you see it's of a religion that isn't so commonly practiced here in Sablemere, though there are those who do. It's the Testimonium Veritas, or at least a reprint, a copy of which there are many. The original just is lost to time. It's part of the religion, the Lazarus Testimonium. It's a single god religion that basically teaches curiosity, understanding, treating others the way that, you ought to treat them. It's also, historically, actually, give me a history check as well.
Is this history within my lifetime or older than that?
This is like learned history.
12.
You know simply that the Lazarus Testimonium is the primary religion of Cairnstone. Cairnstone, which is a religious entity, a religious country. And there are instances where religion is used for expansion purposes and international politics in a pretty offensive way in history. That said, it's still religion, and religion has its goods as well. That's everything you find.
One final note as well on the inked and quill that seems to be large on the table next to the book. You can see that it, especially by your professional standards of recognizing this material, you can see that it's been recently bought just by how old the ink is, by the sheer shape of its color. Yet the ink pot itself seems to be almost completely used already. Almost as if one would write continuously in a non-stop manner.
I think she says to herself, out loud, Graphomania. Interesting.
Trevor, you find your way out of the common quarters and out towards the main halls, which lead to stairs, which could lead to the storage rooms. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, he wants to get the task done and get back to the doctor as soon as possible. He wants to spend the least amount of time in the common area as possible. So really, without even really asking around, he's just going to start exploring, especially trying to go down into storage.
You head down the stairs into the small metal door. This one doesn't look like it's commonly made for passengers. It's heavy to open. And you open into the lower hull where the storage is located. It's a large room, cavernous even. You could fit a lot down here, and it already looks very packed. Many large wooden crates that seem to be nailed shut, at least in this section. Further beyond, you see where a lot of passengers' belongings are. Large rows of shelving and number tags on each row, and bags on each segment of each row. As you head down, you walk through the narrow corridors. You hear a rustling behind one of the boxes.
Someone hiding there?
You see a head peek up, and this doesn't look like one of the crew or even that of a passenger. At least not a passenger they would normally let on the ship. They look messy. Their hair is tangled. There's dirt on their face. Keep it between... You didn't see me. Are you going to tell anybody?
I don't know. What you doing here?
I'm just trying to get to Port Hillcrest. I can't afford a ticket. You see bags under their eyes. They look incredibly tired, almost sick.
Right. Okay. Yeah, of course you're going Port Hillcrest. That's where we're going. All right. You don't got the money. That's fine. I don't work for nobody here but Dr. Glass, so
Oh, thank God.
yeah, I ain't no employee. So just a little tip. Someone says who's there, just shut up. Just don't say nothing.
Oh, got it. Hey, you wouldn't happen to have a couple gold coins, would you? Or maybe a silver to part with?
I can. I mean, he's gonna slowly reach into his pocket, taking out the small stipend that was given by the doctor. Takes a single coin from there. I gotta hold on to this. All right, it was very clear that this was if I got in any trouble. Well, I think, what the hell? And he'll just flip a single coin. I mean, how much would the doctor have given Trevor?
I think enough for 3 deckhand bribes. So, Wes, I don't know if that's 3 gold or if that's too much. Maybe it's 6 silver.
3 gold would definitely be rich, but not too rich. That is a sizable bribe, among the higher end of a good bribe, I would say.
And I think she gave you like a gold and several silver. Deckhands probably only need a little bribing. If you need to bribe the captain, well, you probably need her help anyway.
Exactly. So yeah, he'd flip 1 silver coin over in the direction of the messy figure.
He goes to catch it, and as his hand comes up from behind the box, his body still mostly obscured, he tumbles it. It falls to the ground, and he lurches forward to go grab it, and from behind the box, you see a gun fall onto the floor. Not just any. This looks expensive. I mean, any gun in this era would be ornate and handcrafted, but even this one especially. And quickly, looking extremely nervous, pulls the gun back and takes the coin. Thank you so much.
Where'd you get that?
I found it.
Found it on the ground? Found it where?
I found it in one of the boxes.
What you planning on doing with it?
I was just gonna sell it at Crow Perch, to be completely honest with you.
How desperate does this person seem? And is this desperation stemming from just wanting to get out of this conversation? Or just not wanting me to, take it from him?
Roll insight.
It's an 11.
They look agitated. Not at you, but just in general. They look tired and weak. And in terms of desperation, you almost sense a unsettling nature behind their eyes. Not in any supernatural way, but just like that of a not well person. With an 11, you notice the dark bags under their eyes. You notice a little staining around their lips, as if they take or have taken something.
You know that's not a toy, right? Can't just be dropping it like that. That goes off. That's gonna make a big bang. And then you got every single worker on this boat coming down here.
No, I don't plan on making anything go bang. I'm just gonna sell it. I need the money. With an insight of 11, you can tell that that's not entirely true.
All right. Something tells me. Listen, man. I don't know where you've been. I don't know your story. But that gun's gonna cause you more harm than good. I can tell that much. Word of advice to you, you put it right back where you found it.
You betcha, sir. I'm gonna do that.
Now you say that. I hear you talking. I want to see you do it. You say you found it in a box? I want to see you do that right now.
He steps out from behind the box, holding the gun backwards. He walks down the narrow storage racks and over to one of the crates and tries it, but notices the lid doesn't open on it. It seems to be nailed shut. He goes to the next one and tries it, and this one, however, seems to be accessible, and narrowly opening the lid, he tosses the gun in and closes it and puts his hands up. There. I put it back.
Listen, man. I don't know what you're going through. Just keep your head down.
You got it, sir. Head down all the way. I'm gonna be quiet on the way on the trip to Port Hillcrest.
Right. And he's gonna turn and, trusting this guy, he's gonna start to look around and see if there's anybody else in this storage area that he can ask about the doctor's belongings, and if not, he's just gonna start rooting through stuff.
Yeah, you go down towards where the residential storage is. The racks here have all sorts of luggage. Some of them locked, some of them not. And all the way on the other end, you do see one of the workers putting bags onto a shelf. He turns as you're walking by. Hey, it's not for passengers down here.
That's all right. I'm just here on an errand. I suppose private contractor business. I'm here on business. Listen, someone up top was telling me that someone's luggage got lost. I'm looking for luggage belonging to a Dr. Isidore Glass.
Could certainly help you with that. Just between you and me, just don't tell anybody that I was. Just tell them I sent you out. But Glass, under G. So right this way, and he'll head over to one of the racks, and between the two of you, you can start looking through it. While that's happening, Esper, the man, is still in the galley. He hasn't come back yet. What are you doing?
There's a bit of that fervent pacing and a few sideways glances to the door. And slowly, eventually, Esper's lips start to move as if they're talking to themselves, and eventually it becomes a little bit louder to a full volume as she pauses to stare directly at the door. Fuck it. And she's gonna go to the door and she's gonna crack it open and take a peek out.
Please roll for me a perception check that we'll use as a generality for this scene.
11.
First, you look into the galley, peeking your head lightly, and you see there's a lot of people around a very ornate looking bar. Most are standing around standing tables and chatting, mingling. And there you too see your handler, who is also standing and chatting with somebody. Not a care in the world.
Other direction?
You walk in the other direction, where there are two doors. One you know is to a hallway which leads to your room, which you share with your handler. You know, he's been escorting you. It's his job to do so. I suppose he isn't too concerned about you because you're on a ship. Where are you going to go? In the other direction, you see a door to the outside. Now, this section of ship is meant to be a little bit more secluded. To get to any of the other living quarters, you'd have to go outside, take a stairwell down, walk through the common folk, and over toward there in that direction, either to the wealthy or common areas. The stairs that go down are often guarded. This section of the ship is among the most wealthy. There are only few rooms, and there is a guard standing who you know has been informed of your presence and not to let you down into the common areas. He's sitting there leaning over the railing, looking out into the ocean and dragging on a cigarette.
Well then, knowing what Esper knows about that particular guard, she will opt for the slightly safer option and go to the other of the two doors.
A wealthy section. Here, there might be as much as 15 rooms at most. You know where yours is, and there are 14 others. On the level above, there's only 5 rooms. That is inclusive of the 14, and that's where there are single-person rooms, the most expensive and the most wealthy of traveler.
Esper's not going to bother to go up. It's more that their small figure is going to pace with possibly a surprisingly heavy step considering their size to just have a breadth of space to walk and move and potentially be mumbling a bit to themselves. They seem restless about it. And it's motivated more than anything by, judging by their body language, to be a need for space.
You pace through the halls, taking whatever fresh air you can get from within here. You see your door that you pass by, walk to the other side, and pace in the other direction. In this time, you even, I suppose, would head up the stairs and then down the stairs. And as you head up the second time and you're pacing, you see a very wealthy looking figure step outside of one of the doors. His eyes meet yours, and for a moment he reaches to his hip in concern because you don't quite look the part for all the wealthy people here. Who are you? You're just hanging out?
Yes, I am. Who are you?
He takes his hand away from his hip, a little bit disarmed. You can just call me Felix.
Pleased to meet you, Felix. Now, excuse me.
Sure. He goes to walk by you on his way to the galley. And he passes by. You can smell a waft of very expensive cologne. You see, especially as he saw you, he took very careful intent to lock his doors. And he gingerly walks by, locking eyes with yours as he does so. He's a handsome man.
She'll give him a bit of a crooked little snicker before she just turns and goes on her way. She doesn't bother to look back at him at all. Sort of the same kind of side eye of looking at him lock the door, being like, yep, I get it, and then moving on her way.
You move on your way and walk to the end of this hall where there is a very ornate porthole for this most wealthy section of the ship. Stained glass, but some of it translucent. And you notice something. The fog that hung low on the ocean seems to hang even lower now. It gathers thickly. The seas aren't as choppy as they were. They start to become a bit like glass. Even the wind has started to die down a bit. And while you're looking outside, so is someone else. Nihilus, you stand outside on this deck, and you begin to see on the mast, at least on your section, a light deposit of white crystal starting to accumulate just lightly. It's as if a mold starting to wrap around the mast, except that it's more crystalline in form.
Should be perfectly normal event I require. He has a look around for any of the working deck, see if they spot the same thing.
You see the people out here are minding their own business, enjoying the air. The workers, they seem to still be busy, and they aren't paying much attention. One of them, who's pulling a rope, picking up one of the sails due to the lack of wind, he's not too far from you. And there's some other common folk.
Nihilus approaches the working man. He says, excuse me, sir. I'm terribly sorry to bother you, but I know I'm new to this, but is that a normal event? It's not something I've seen before on my shiply travels.
That, what are you talking about?
That up there, the crystallization, I suppose, on the mast.
He looks over at it, and you see for a moment his eyes widen, and then you see him gather a composure to himself. You see this happen right in front of you. You don't need an insight check to notice it. It's so obvious. And he looks back.
Sir?
Nothing to be alarmed about. However, I do have to go about my duties now.
Of course, sir. I wish you the best of luck. As Nihilus puts his hand on his shoulder and he clasps his own holy cross and he says a small word of good luck, and he casts guidance on him.
And with that, the man doesn't go back to tend to the rope. He instead goes right inside and briskly down the halls.
Nihilus understands he does try to follow a bit on a slower pace to see if he can overhear any conversation.
You head into the halls as well, and please go ahead and roll for me a stealth check.
For a total of 10.
With a 10, you head down the halls. You see this man is overcome with his brisk walking and urgency. He doesn't pay much attention to what's going on behind him. You head down the halls and up to a new set of stairs, one that he had to walk through a special door to get through, one that's not on the common path to all the living quarters. Do you follow him through that door? There's nobody standing guard, but it's clear that this is a section of the ship that typically guests no longer travel.
With the situation as it is, his interest and curiosity piques him too much, and he does dare follow.
You head up this set of stairs and you hear the door above you close as somebody has just walked through it. It's a heavy door, definitely one meant for crew. And as you approach it, you see the small porthole on the door reveals the head of the ship, the rudder, the wheel, the captain on the inside, and you see this crew member walk up to the captain and begin saying something. It would be tough to hear through the door, but not impossible.
He definitely understands something is amiss. Normally, he would not dare be so rude as to inquire on a situation like this, although it is quite important, even vital, one might say, that the right thing happens in a situation like this if there is something truly wrong. He has read about all kinds of mannerism around this island. He does speak, get closer, put an ear to the door if he must.
Roll perception.
Will do. For a total of 11.
You put your ear to the door, and it is challenging to hear most of what's being said. But there are some words that are said with such vigor, loudness by those saying it, that they ring through enough for you to catch just those words. You hear deposits, saturation, early,
It is as he fears. He tries to take his leave before he gets caught into a wrongful situation, and he does try to take his way back to his own quarter with a lot on his mind. Although he does try to keep an insight, I suppose, on the rest of the crew workers and see how fast the word spreads if a panic might happen.
You don't see anything happening yet. This is all very recent. You know, you're just leaving the conversation with the captain. But you are able to make it back to your quarters, and as you enter, you'll find Dr. Glass.
He will knock first, not to intrude.
Come in, I suppose.
Well, lovely, wasn't it? Suppose I'll get used to knocking on the door. I thought to be of my own. Sorry, I'm rambling. How are you? Are you faring? You don't have your things yet, do you?
Not most of them. You see, she does have like a small canvas bag that Trevor had left that she's started to pull a few things from, just simple things. You notice an instrument or two, a musical instrument, and a healer's kit similar to your own. But she stops now. And she says, yes, I'm sure Trevor will sort it out. He is very resourceful. I am very resourceful as well.
Well, that's lovely to hear. Sound like a strong duo in that case.
I'd like to think so. Though sometimes people make incorrect assumptions about which of us is best at what. Oh, by the way, before we go any further, Mr. Von Stone, and I'm sure you won't mind just emptying that bag of yours onto the bed so I can make sure you don't have any weapons or anything nefarious.
Well, I do have. Very well. And please, call me Nihilus.
Nihilus.
Of course. As I do, might I interrupt you with mere curiosity question? I overheard something particularly interesting. The saturation, are you familiar with it? As he starts to first close his book and clear his things off before he does as instructed, keeping it as a savory last moment.
And Wes, would she be? She would she not? In a general sense.
Yes, I would say you of all people know a lot about Crow Perch, and I would say the saturation is very familiar. You would know for certain. In fact, anybody who made preparations for this trip and really thought ahead would know that in a few weeks to a month, it would have been time to go. The saturation has a season where it's most common, and it tends to set in. This is very early. Incredibly early.
Are you assuming I'll know about it because I'm so very old? Well,
I don't mean any rueful Natasha says that, huh?
no, it's all right. You're correct. What exactly is your question about the saturation? If you're wondering about this ship, I know it's specifically designed to withstand the saturation, but that's not supposed to be for several months.
Right, that's what I learned as well, although quite the faintest thing happened, I suppose. It's as if life itself has taken an alternative course, as in I saw a clear, insightful seeing of the saturation already taking part.
Are you quite serious, Mr. Nihilus?
I'm afraid I am.
That's, I have to say, a bit disturbing. We certainly don't want to be caught in all of that. The salt's just weighing down the air. We'll be safe on this ship, but very, very unpleasant and very alarming. Well,
if I do understand correctly, even a ship like this would have its limits. The dangers of saturation itself, from what I've read in the studies back in Keystone, at least, is that it's quite as sincere heart attack to a ship, even if it's empty. But now with all of its passengers and extra weight, I don't mean to cause any alarms at all, but would this be a situation where we would prepare for calling out your faithful friend to the situation.
You're quite right that it's worth addressing. I don't know that Trevor, adept though he is, can punch the salt out of the air, but
A large man as him, I'm sure he could have a fair punch at that. But no, I meant, see, I told one of the deckhands, and he seemed to be quite alarmed. Although he tried to hide it, of course. But I think the situation on board might change on a rapid pace as soon as things unfold themselves. I like to prepare ahead, as I usually do.
well, if the question is, can we send someone to wheedle information out of the captain and the higher ranks, then I do know someone who might be quite good at that. It happens to be myself.
How very flavorful.
Oh, well, I haven't heard that in a while.
I'm afraid my tongue is a bit odd at times. I'm sorry. Even though Universalist is such a well-spoken language, even in Keystone there are their own accents at first.
Quite true, quite true. And actually, when I was looking through his book, you mentioned that there were languages, there were a lot of different languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would I have noticed Thrum called Tinker Speak or Silveran amongst them?
The Silvaran one and Thrum called would definitely be signs of it. Not as loud, not as clear, but there would be inscription of it.
That's good to know, actually, and I think she would say to you in Thrum called, don't worry about miscommunications. We'll sort it out.
He speaks back in the same tongue, although you can definitely tell it is a learner tongue through books and studies. His accent is a bit off, as he doesn't find a lot of other different people who speak the same language. And in a rough manner, he says that he agrees.
And Dr. Glass's Thrum called is the exact opposite. It's kitchen table Thrum called, which would maybe be a bit incongruous based on how she talks. Not madness or anything, just unusual. And she says, but while we are on the subject, there is one thing I should get out of the way. Young men such as yourself, Mr. von Stonen, often labor under the misapprehension that I find them charming or attractive, and I just want to assure you that that is not the case. So if you'd had any intention of wrapping me around your little finger, we can just skip all that and go straight to you unpacking your bag for me, as we discussed.
Quite forward and direct you are, then. I meant no indication of such. As, part of my religion does mean I keep to a certain degree to myself. I shall no wife, as to say. And I did promise, dear Sir Trevor, I would not lay a single finger on you. And of course, I'm glad that you helped keep notes. As you can see, as I unpack, he puts the healer's kit on the table, and then in one sweet, kind of heavy motion, this metal clanking falls out, and you'd be able to see a full-on rounded shield and a full-on breastplate as well. That seem to be the only two items stuck in there, from what you can tell.
Her expression doesn't change. She seems to be taking it in. She says, such a holy man, are you often in need of such heavy-duty protection? Your walking Trevor, if you will?
Well, you have your means, I do have mine, although I mean no harm to anyone, and I wish no harm to me as well, but I do come from a country which is born in its rightful military rights. I've learned a thing or two, although I would say I'm still an novice at things. Let's say it's a mindful protection at oftentimes. I prefer to wear these items as I do. As he tucks on the sleeves of his suit.
Understood. And don't worry, I'm not afraid of you. Now, shall we go and figure out this whole saturation business?
I would love to. It is prickling on my mind.
Yes.
God's behest. I wouldn't want it to be a serious cause to delay any travels.
And of course, right when we're out of sight of shore do we find this out. The gods forbid they give us appropriate information. Much less about whoever winkled my suite away from me and put us in this situation. I assume you had nothing to do with that.
That is clearly an assumption. No, I was merely behaving on my own interest. Shall we?
We shall.
As you head towards the captain's area, you notice there are crew members that dot away from the captain's area. They seem briskly walking with intent. You make your way towards the door, and you find the stairwell that heads up there, and here there are no other crew coming out. You and Nihilus make your way up the stairs and to the door to the captain's chamber, where the rudder is, where all the commands take place. Please roll a perception check.
Very well. My, what do I see with my eye? A good old dirty 20.
Better than my 11. I must be annoyed by having to go up the stairs.
Nihilus, you make your way up and you hear inside, and you hear, "I have to make the announcement. Now, sir, I hope you understand, we are already quite a way into the trip, and I think turning back now is simply not an option. There are those on the ship who must make it to Crowperch." "Well, it's for the safety of everybody that we should turn around." Sir, a reminder that if we turn around, then payment is no longer afforded for the entire trip. The bonus that you were offered to continue no longer be on the table. All right, well, at least we're going to keep this one indoors. I have to make an announcement. And he paces across the deck, as you can see through the porthole, to a small device, and he speaks into it. Trevor, Esper, and everybody, you hear, "Attention, this is your captain speaking. Captain Ogrim Strand of the Meridian Fleet. I regret to inform you that usage of the outdoor spaces will be shut down within the next hour. I repeat, it will be shut down within the next hour. It's important that you wrap up whatever you're doing and make your way inside unless you are crew. Further announcement will come. Thank you very much." And you hear the click off sound. And Trevor, near you, you hear, "I've looked everywhere and I can't find any of these bags. I'm sorry."
Well, I mean, I'm still inside, ain't I? I mean, I can't go back upstairs to her without her stuff, so, why don't you just go do whatever job you need to do? I'll hold the fort down from here.
I mean, with the announcement, I don't think it's wise to leave you alone down here. I'm pretty sure it's going to be an all-hands sort of situation. The outdoor area doesn't get shut down for no reason. I must insist that I'd have to escort you out of the cargo hold. I don't know if I have much other option.
Well, I mean, really? You gotta? Like, you gotta? Like, if I don't say nothing, and you don't say nothing, you ain't gonna know, right?
You can roll persuasion.
Might as well. Give it a shot. 12?
Well, just make sure you're out as soon as you can be, okay?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I got one job to do and then I'm out.
Thank you. And he'll briskly walk off towards the exit to the cargo hold. Now, you know that you've searched, hell, like, almost all of the passengers' belongings at this point. What else are you doing down here?
First thing I'm gonna do is his mind is still locked on that stowaway. And as he's still continuing to root through boxes looking for the doctor's belongings, he goes, there's like an inner monologue. He's thinking like, well, he's still hanging around here. There's trouble brewing. He might get that pistol again. It might be safer with me. He's gonna get up from his place, and he is going to walk over to the crate that he saw the disheveled man stow the gun.
You go to that crate. You find it. The disheveled man is nowhere to be found. But as you open the crate and you look inside, you see the gun.
Better safe than sorry. He's gonna take the gun.
You do. Please add an ornate golden gun to your inventory.
Just like tuck that in. He's not a smart man. He's gonna tuck that into his pants, like the back of his pants.
Okay. So I'll say it's concealed somewhat. You look around the corner where you originally saw this disheveled man, and you see it's wretched. It's dirty. There's empty vials on the ground, and a number of them. You see 5 or 6. You see staining on the floor where sweat or just dirt kind of might have emanated from this person. And you see an outline on the ground where there might have been a cot, but it's been moved.
That ain't right. He's gonna start to slowly shuffle his way towards the outline. Someone sleeping here? Hello?
Roll investigation.
It's 6.
I mean, it's clear somebody's been sleeping here, and you can only presume that having found this person there, maybe they just picked up and moved, knowing that somebody knew where they were. The vials, however, these are vials of slow ether. Slow ether is a drug that makes the world more palatable for some. It reduces pain, and it's prone to abuse.
Kind of picking up one of these vials, it just kind of gives a little sniff. All right. He's been here for a bit. Slowly gets up. You still here?
You can roll either persuasion or intimidation in your voice.
I mean, it's the same modifier either way. I'll go persuasion. That's a 16.
There's a scurry down one of the halls, as if startled a bit by her voice or nervous in some way. And one of the small knickknacks on the shelves you hear tumble to the floor, clearly giving a location just 20 feet away. It's in between the rat's nest of shelves and storage.
He's going to slowly start to inch his way towards that gap. He's just kind of, as he's doing so, calling out, I know you're still here. It's okay. You just need to come out. All the workers have gone up for a meeting. Okay? So just come out slow and calmly.
What is your passive perception?
Passive perception is a 12.
There's a jump from behind you, and you feel arms wrap around your shoulders as if trying to pin you down.
Immediately, almost as a reflex.
Roll an athletics check, by the way.
Yeah. All right. Damn. That's just a 9.
It catches you by surprise, and they slam you into one of the shelves. These don't necessarily feel like the arms of a squarely strung out person that you saw earlier, but they hold you and they pin your arms behind your back, and you hear, "Now stay real still. I'm holding a gun to your back. If you move, I'm gonna pull the trigger. You hear me? Slow like."
What are you doing, man? I ain't got nothing. All right? As soon as you go out there, I start shouting, you got the whole ship on you. You gotta think this through.
If I'm thinking I should leave no evidence behind, but wiser minds will prevail. I want you to give me what you just took. Slow.
Can't rightly do that while I'm up against this wall. It's down in my pocket. You should be able to see it.
I'm gonna go down and reach into your pocket now. You're gonna stay real still, otherwise you're gonna have a hole in the back of your head. Do you understand?
No, can't rightly say that I do.
He begins moving his hand down to reach into your pocket.
As soon as I feel the touch leave, he is going to attempt to do a 180 spin back elbow to whoever is standing behind me.
Roll a contested athletics check.
24.
You move briskly. You swing around, and your elbow clocks into the side of this guy's head. You feel it hit, and hit real hard. Harder than you might have even expected. A surprise. It slams this man's head to the side into one of the shelves, knocking him unconscious as he falls to the ground. You see a human man with a light 5 o'clock shadow. In his hand is just a small piece of pipe, and he's now laying unconscious on the ground.
Fucking asshole. He's just gonna give one kick to the side of the head. Talk your shit now. And he's just gonna pick up the pipe and just toss it across the room. He's gonna try and grab him by the collar of his shirt, and he's gonna start trying to drag him up from the storage room.
You do so. And as you pull him up the stairs and through the door, you find your way into the halls of the ship. And where are you trying to bring him?
Trying to basically take him to the all-hands meeting and give him to them.
To the helm?
Yeah, wherever they're having that all-hands meeting.
Nihilus and Dr. Glass, you hear the door beneath you open to the hall you're snooping in. And as you look over the railing slowly and carefully, you see Trevor carrying a body.
Well, perspicacious does get us a funny amount of events on a single day, would it not?
So it would seem. What is going on, Trevor? Who is this?
Slowly, I take the body of the man and I just toss him at the feet. Was looking for your stuff. Found some stuff that I didn't reckon I'd find. claimed to hold a gun to my head, wanted me to give him this. And I reach into the back of my pants and I pull out the golden pistol.
Whoa, that's quite something to be holding around.
I'll say.
I don't suppose Dr. Glass recognizes this pistol or notices anything interesting about it.
You would know that it is an expensive piece. Guns are expensive to begin with such ornamental design, with precious metals. This is a very rare find.
I think she sticks her hand out just to take it to examine it while they're talking.
He'll hand it over.
This one is yours then?
Oh, no. I mean, at the moment, I suppose. I just do like to turn things over and try to figure out what we're dealing with. Sometimes these extremely rich assholes engrave their initials on their weapons or something like that. Pardon my language, Mr. von Stonen. Nihilus.
That's quite all right in a situation such as this, although is it maybe not time we get the authority involved? Is that man still alive? I do hope so. Seems breathing.
Think so? I think I just knocked him for a loop.
Must have taken quite a fight.
Well, weren't too long. I'm a professional. Looking down, is this a different person than the stowaway, or is it the same person?
Clearly a different person. You see a rugged look, 5 o'clock shadow. His clothes are simple, but you can tell by the fabric and by the, it's of a pretty fine caliber.
Do I see any of the same indications of the slow ether? With the stowaway, it was clear on his face that he was taking. Is there any indication that they were affiliated, or is this just a completely independent actor here?
Same question.
You don't see any signs of slow ether on this person. They look put together. You even smell a little bit of a cologne, a light one. That said, roll investigation. You can roll with advantage, given everybody's looking. But, truth be told, Trevor, you're the one who saw the other figure in the basement. You're probably best to ascertain this question.
Can I whisper in his ear, you know more than you think you do, Trevor. Give it a go. And give him bardic inspiration?
Absolutely.
Then I do.
All right. Got some get up and go. Let's do this. Okay. Well, let's roll some bardic inspiration. Is that a D6? Okay.
D6.
7.
You look him over, and you don't see much. You turn over his pockets, and you find a napkin that bears the symbol of the ship. Typically, that would be from a more expensive section, a bar or a galley. You see some toothpicks, and you find a lighter. That's it.
No idea who he is. He was able to walk around the ship.
Do I feel like this is a rich kid or someone who maybe works for a rich person? Like, you say 5 o'clock shadow. I don't know if it's in just like a fashionable way or in a stowaway way or a brutish way. Can Isadora try to profile him quickly based on his clothes, etc.?
More fashionable than not. This is definitely a wealthier person. That's pretty clear to you specifically.
And I don't recognize him, right?
No, you haven't seen this face before.
So odd that he would be roughing people up down below. Maybe it's his pistol that you've found. And she does hand the pistol back to Trevor. I assume she didn't see any initials on it or anything.
Dear Sir Trevor, now if I do understand the situation correctly, you managed to safeguard Dr. Glass's things and belongings from this suspected thief in sinning, although this particular item of shiny nature is not under your equipment of inventory, Dr. Glass, so would it not be possible that it is his and this is a clear understanding, or I don't want any trouble.
It's certainly possible.
If it was his gun, he wouldn't be threatening me with a fake gun on my head.
Well, he might well be if you took his only gun, Trevor. Mr. Von Sonnen does have a point.
Simple please or thank you could have fucking sufficed.
But so's whose is it?
I don't know.
Maybe whoever took our suite. I think we have enough here to be very confusing to the captain and whoever's with him, though, which is to our advantage. If we just drag this fellow up there and start complaining about things, we can probably find out some information.
If need be, I shall be of service and help to however I can, although I prefer not to get into a situation such as this, if that is quite alright with you, and if there are indeed thieves looming about, I prefer to go back to my things in my cabin and put an extra lock in it, if you wouldn't mind. And he goes off.
Are we bringing the gun with us?
I wouldn't just drop it here, but maybe don't mention it right away.
Right. I'll see what I can do. He kind of tucks the gun in an inside pocket.
Remember that a person being able to describe this gun without us having said anything first, that will be useful information.
Good thinking.
As always, we play our cards close to the chest, as I know you're so good at.
Maybe you take the lead on this. You need any help, I'll back you up.
Shall we?
After you.
And she, opposite of stealth, clunks her cane up the remaining step and wraps it on the door. Captain! Oh, Captain!
You hear the captain's footsteps walk across towards the door. And as this happens, Esper, you heard the announcement that exterior is going to be shutting down soon. As you pace through the hall, you make your way back to the sitting area, and you see your handler sitting back in his chair, sipping on a cocktail, without a care in the world. You see the door to the outside, you see the door to the bar, and of course the door to your room, which is also an option. What are you doing?
It is going to be the door to the outside as quickly as I can, preferably because I know that soon the access will be prohibited.
You head to the door to the outside, and it's a very ornate balcony. The wood, unlike the rest of the ship, is very expensive of make. It's crow wood. It has dark, swirling patterns in it, nicely polished, the railing itself wrought iron. And the guard who stands guard is sitting in his chair, nodding off just slightly, his head leaning back onto the railing as he stays for the final moments before the outdoors shuts down.
Looks like they can be slipped by.
Please roll stealth.
That is a 21.
You head to the small gate. It's recently been greased, it seems, because it opens very quietly. And as you push it open, you take a silent step down the stairs, working not to stir the guard, whose eyes seem closed, his head leaning back. And you quietly make your way down towards the common areas. Now, there are a few people still there, but not many. And you see the door to the common sleeping quarters, the door to the inner workings of the ship, which may lead other places as well, and the door to the second tier of wealth. This one is not guarded, but you would know that heading there from the common area might be noticed.
Which of the doors, to Esper's knowledge of the ship, seems like it would lead to a deck?
Besides the common area outdoor space that you're walking through, and besides the second tier of wealth, that space we described Nihilus standing on earlier, you do remember in the rear of the ship there was another deck, a balcony.
That's where she wants to go.
You head through the door of the common areas, the most direct towards the back of the ship, and you find your way to the rear staircase. Looking out the porthole, you see the balcony back there. It's vacant. There's nobody there at all. And as you get to the top, you pass the section where the second tier of wealth might stay, and you find another porthole. This one, being so high up, has a latch that can open. That could get you to that deck if you were willing to climb around the outside, unless you're looking for another way there, which might be hard to find, but not impossible.
I think Esper will take her chances with this portal.
Esper, you raise the latch, opening the porthole, and climb your way out. Please roll an athletics check. It would be a low DC. It's not a difficult climb.
That was a 15.
You make your way out and onto this rear deck. It's smaller than the rest, but you know you're alone here. You notice that the door is very expensive of make. It too has a porthole that looks inside, and you see a private quarters. You even see a fireplace on the inside, which is currently not lit. You see an expensive bed that would sleep 2 people, as opposed to all of the very many single beds on the ship. You see dressers and a desk. It is, as you can presume, the wealthiest looking room on the ship.
I think there's just a glance afforded in that direction. It's a distraction for a moment. She's gonna look, actually, if there are any masts, any high-rising, or even in the railings. She wants to look for evidence of that saturation. She wants to get a look at it.
Now, as you stand outside, it's a bit more noticeable. These deposits don't just look like a sheer glisten anymore, but it's like dry tendrils that wrap around the mast. You see the deposits as they swirl, coincidentally making this pattern as they deposit. It's clutching to this old wood of the ship like barbed hooks through porous skin.
Is this similar to the appearance of the deposits and crystallization that were in her dream?
Identical. Although in your dream it was a lot more pronounced, thick deposits, almost crystalline structure, and it was on land. This, of course, is at sea.
A few suspended moments there as Esper stares at it and takes it in. And then her way back through the porthole is going to be much more hasty than her way out of it, as she is going to attempt to, in that walking, hurried way, make it back to her warden of sorts.
Please roll, I'll say athletics. Not quite what I'm looking for, but it'll do.
24.
You make your way back through the halls. You get to the door to the outside, and you see it's almost entirely vacant now. Nobody's left out there. That said, you know you have just a little bit of time left. You can go through this door and make it back to your section, probably without the guard seeing you, if you move hastily now. Otherwise, you may be stuck on this side.
She'll move. She'll go through.
You go quickly, making your way across the deck and up the stairs. You quietly open and close the gate, walking past the guard, but you make it back quickly and back into where you belong. You notice your handler. Hey, fresh air? What's going on here?
Would have been nice, but I don't think it's so fresh anymore. There's something's weird about it. Weirder than what we already know. There's something extra strange.
You begin to hear an announcement over the intercom system.
All right, guests. I regret to inform you the rest of this trip will be handled inside. You'll understand, there is the matter of the saturation. Well, it's arrived earlier than expected, which means we must take extra precautions.
And as he's speaking, his door opens, and you hear it cut off. And as the intercom cuts out, Dr. Glass and Trevor, you enter the room. And
Just terrible, unacceptable. I'm sure Captain, you have to help. Only you can help at this point. I'm really just. I really am at a loss. It's one thing or it's another. Trevor, bring the body in. And that's even, honestly, Captain, the least of things.
Roll a baseline persuasion check.
Only a 19.
Guards? And you see two strong men walk over to the door. My name is Captain Ogrim, and why, for the life of me, that you carry a body onto my... Is this man alive?
Yes, of course. I am a doctor. Wes, is he alive? I don't know if she checked.
He's alive, certainly. Is there a medical emergency?
The emergency is that this man attacked my man Trevor here while he was trying to find the luggage that you have lost because you've separated me from my security and housed me with a complete stranger, a young man no less, and now you're telling me that I'm to be trapped in my room this entire journey with a strange man and no access to my trusty bodyguard here. What is the meaning of any of this? Someone's taken my suite that I paid for well in advance, and I still don't even know who. And then again, ruffians in storage attacking my man Trevor. Tell me you can do something, Captain.
You see a processing happening on his face. This is a man who doesn't deal with customer service, at least not anymore, if he ever has. And he takes a moment to gather. All right. Why were you in the storage hold? That's off limits to any traveler who's on this ship.
Well, unfortunately, as the doctor had instructed me, I was to gather her belongings, and so I went down there, and lo and behold, this guy comes and tries to sneak attack me.
Let me see. And the captain moves forward to this man. All right. Let's see here. He goes through pockets. He sees the napkin, the toothpicks, and he goes into the shirt and turns the collar inside out. And he goes to different parts, and finally he finds an embroidery on it that says Gray. Can you look up the name Gray, please, in the directory? Yes, sir, of course. And a moment goes by. Todd Gray. Ooh, one of our most elite travelers, I see. All right. You say this wealthy man attacked you in the storage hold. I don't doubt your words.
Good.
But I'm trying to ascertain as to why that might be. You wouldn't happen to have instigated something, would you?
Oh yes, doubt Trevor, Wend. The only one who has not kept their word is the staff of your ship. And she shoots Trevor a look. Are you okay in this conversation, or should I steamroll?
First of all, if you're going to yell at me, you can yell at him too. He was down there with me. And second, it was kind of hard to start a fight when he was, well, what I thought was a gun at the time, holding it to my back, pushing me up against a wall, telling me to empty my pockets.
Roll deception. He was asking for something specific.
All right. Deception. 16?
All right. I'll take the assumption that this clearly very wealthy man was trying to rob you of your belongings. Look, I don't have time for this right now. There's more pressing matters at hand. Please leave him here. We'll take him to the infirmary and get to the bottom of this later. I want to thank you for bringing this to my attention, and would like to advise you find your way to your rooms, and you don't cause any more trouble.
And while he was going over the body, can Dr. Glass have just taken in the room to see if there's anything unusual or hints about this saturation business?
You can do so, and as you look around, you see that the little kind of captain's board of announcements has a little flashing light on it, one that looks concerning. Outside of the window, though, is what you find more interesting. The air is thickly white, and these wisps of texture to the air seem to whip around, and you see as it almost looks like it's encircling the mast, and you see the white deposits now thick around. It even seems to feel heavier, and the ship seems to feel lower in the water. The captain has a table with all sorts of papers sprawled out, a map, of course, to his destination, and his crew seems to be working overtime as they handle all of the little devices, knickknacks, and buttons that are around this deck.
Dr. Glass straightens up a bit, her shoulders drop, and she looks at the captain and she says, "Well, Captain, we seem to have fucked up, haven't we? What's your plan now?"
All right. Well, I was about to make that announcement. This is an early onset of the saturation. It's a common occurrence in these parts, but not something that happens typically out of season. Our ship is well equipped to handle it, but I'll give you the bad news, I suppose. Saturation of this caliber usually means that a season is setting in. There's no turning around, and there's going to be no leaving Crowperch. Not for a while, until it lets loose.
Well, I'm sure that will upset quite a lot of people. Is this one of your first journeys, Captain?
No. I've been making this trip for nearly my whole life.
That's what I had thought. Nothing unusual seems to have precipitated this precipitation? Just how the weather goes sometimes?
Well, I would say the fact that it's even happening right now is incredibly unusual. I have never seen it set in more than a week early.
You've never? Well, that's...
Not in my life.
So, let me see if I can get this right. So we're on the island until this season's done?
Yes. Typically it could be several months. But if there is something unusual about it this time, I couldn't nearly predict. You'd have to talk to an arcanist or somebody who's more learned in those matters.
She looks him up and down and looks at whoever else is in the room, and she just kind of wants to glean. These people really don't have any more information than that, do they? Is anyone looking shifty or nervous or hiding anything? Like physically hiding anything?
There are a few people in this room. There's 3 deckhands who seem to be assisting, there's 2 guards, and there is the assistant who led you to your room. Roll insight.
Oh, that is a natural 1. But so for an 8.
Again, I'm so sorry, ma'am, about all the inconveniences. I can tell that this has been a very challenging trip for you, and I understand that on top of losing your luggage and having your roommate replaced, it must be very agitating, and this must be the cherry on the cake. And let me just say that we will, here at the Royal Rose, be doing everything we can to make it right. But I think the captain is quite a busy person, and we can't have you here anymore.
All right. No one likes to be handled. But if you are looking for consultants on, I believe you said you're looking for an arcanist. Obviously, I'm not one personally, though I am a scientist in my own right. You know where to find me.
Of course, and we'll be sure to put you in touch with the appropriate person should you like to learn more about what's happening here today.
Yes, I think you can sign me up for that immediately.
Of course. I did want to simply ask, is there anything else of note that transpired in the cargo hold that we should know before you go on your way?
Looking at the doctor.
The doctor doesn't know about the first guy.
Yeah, but it's more about the gun.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I think she's listening to something in herself for a moment. And she shakes her head just imperceptibly. Barely perceptibly. I think he said all he knows.
Yeah, sorry. It went so fast in my brain. It goes a little slow at the best of times.
Well, please enjoy the rest of the trip. I apologize that you'll be inside for most of it. Have a good day.
Send someone with my things when you find them. Ugh. Excellent. And they make their way out, I suppose.
You do so. And that's a good place for us to take a break. So, Doc, am I gonna be okay? Yes, you'll be fine. Try not to take a hit like that again. You gave yourself a concussion, and one more like that, and maybe you won't be walking around so easily next time. You told me that somebody assaulted you? Yes, in the storage room. I see. I think it's best we get somebody involved in the matter. Give me one moment. And there's some time spent waiting. And after maybe 10 minutes, 2 sets of footsteps start coming back. The door opens. All right, we have here the assistant to the captain. The captain is unavailable due to pressing matters regarding the saturation. I do need this office in case of an emergency, but I'll leave you two together. Thanks. So, I heard about this altercation that you had. Apparently, you've tried to assault one of the passengers? You've got it wrong. I went down to the cargo hold to get some of my belongings. As you know, is allowed to us of the first-class quarters. I went down there, and I saw a pile of slow ether bottles, and a man rummaging around my belongings. Would you describe this man? Yes, it was a half-orc. He didn't look all too well. Might have seen some bandages on his chest, I don't know. Got a good look at him, and as soon as he saw me, well, I think he didn't like that. I think he noticed I was catching him in the act, so he rushed me. He even took my gun, wrestled it from me. I tried to defend myself, but he overpowered me. He seems like he's trained. I don't know. I see. You realize what you're saying here. You're accusing. Yes. I think he still has my gun, too. Oh, well, we can't have that. A weapon like that around the ship shouldn't have been here to begin with. Yes, I brought it for protection, and I'll be sure to straighten this one out. Again, as I tend to do for everybody on the ship. Have a good day. Esper, you're in the seating area of your first class section of the ship. Everybody seems to be standing, mingling, talking, and you notice an air of concern. You overhear some conversations. I'm meant to be to and from Quo Perch in only a matter of a week. Now I'm to stay here until this incessant saturation. If this ship can sail through it, then why don't they just send us back? They can't send us back. The ship is only meant to withstand a day at most. What I'm most concerned about is we still have multiple days left in this trip. I just don't see how we do it. They say we can't turn back, but I feel like that's the best choice. Well, I can turn back. I have an important meeting to make. Is your meeting worth more than your life? Well, I think the captain's going to choose the right decision regardless. It's his job to keep us safe. Esper, as you look out the window, you see almost nothing. The air is thick, so thick and heavy that you can barely even see the water beneath the window. You do see the mast, and you look out from an angle, and now it's completely overcome by this white deposit. It's crystalline. Your handler, he too seems to be pacing about. He looks quite nervous.
After some time of looking at Mr. Augie and his clear contempt and upset, she is eventually going to get up and walk, and as she's walking past the handler, she'll say, "Promise, I'll come back. It's not like I can really go very far." And she's going to move out of the area, and she's going to make her way up towards the captain's quarters. As if she didn't take a moment to even consider it and just immediately decided she'll do it, she's going to brave the outside for a few seconds.
You go up to the door that leads outside and step outside, and it closes behind you. As you step out, you notice something different, even different from the dream you had. The air feels acidic, sharp. It's heavy in your lungs with the short breath you do take, and you can tell immediately, because it stings from the inside, that if you breathe this too much, you could die. So as you get outside, you quickly go to the next door, open it up, and step inside. And now you're in a narrow stairwell heading down. And as you open the door at the bottom, you find yourself in the cargo hold. You walk down to the other end of the cargo hold. You get to the door and you open it. You make your way up.
She is definitely looking for the captain himself.
Got it. So you'd know he would be on the deck.
Mhm.
You head up the stairs and to the door. You get up there, and you see the captain through the porthole of the door, commanding the ship. You see just some assistants and some guards standing inside as well. What do you do?
She is going to just start knocking on the window.
Somebody let that person in. Also, I thought we had somebody who used to stand out there and screen guests at the deck. I don't know. Never mind.
And he goes over himself and opens the door. Apparently, I'm the one who is handling all of our guests now. How can I help you, miss?
Captain, there's something very wrong with this saturation.
Yes, it's come early. I'm going to finish an announcement with instructions for the guests, but you're not to be outside in the open air.
I know, but when it does come, is it especially thick? Does it tend to sweep on the mainland?
Can you roll just a charisma check, General?
That is a 9.
You see him sigh. Come in. He walks across to the big windows. I've been sailing this ship for my entire life. I started as a deckhand, and I inherited command from my father. And I've sailed through the saturation many times now. Don't get me wrong, it's treacherous and dangerous, but we've handled it many years in a row, and we'll handle it again. You'll get there safely.
I'm not trying to doubt your ability to captain the ship. I have a feeling. And I know that sounds a little weird because feelings don't mean much, but it's strong. I think we might be sailing into a ghost town.
A ghost town. You've never been to Crowperch, have you?
No.
Port Hillcrest is, though smaller than it once was, it's a beautiful town. There's plenty to do, there's plenty of people, and I came from there to the port where we retrieved you just a week and a half ago. Everybody was there. Everybody will be there. And why don't you just go have a drink at the bar, miss, and stop worrying so much?
Her face kind of twists up and she looks like she's repeatedly trying to start saying something.
You see his eyes look over to the two guards for a moment, just kind of giving a nonverbal cue and then looking down at you, and he continues nodding and listening intently.
Fine, if you think you fucking know better. And she'll turn on her heel, and she'll kind of do the underneath squeeze because of her height. Just push past the two guards.
Hey,
And as the captain says that, one of the guards grabs your arm.
I just want to make sure that you're going to be okay. You seem distressed. Why don't I take you over to
the sitting area of the second-class cabin. We'll sit you down and give you a meal, and then send you back. What did you say your name was?
Esper.
Esper. Give me Esper, please. First-class cabin, riding with name's crossed out here, but a handler.
They don't need to come.
All right. Doesn't matter. We'll get you back to the first-class cabin afterward. Let's get you a meal, get you comfortable. I have to make an announcement, and we'll go from there.
All right.
All right. Go on and take her down. Get her my menu. You sure? We only pack a limited amount of those. Just get her what I asked, please. And the guard lets go of your arm and steps in front of you to lead the way. He walks down the stairs and down the hall, and as they're walking, Dr. Glass and Trevor, you're just about to get to Dr. Glass's room as you see a guard walk by with Esper at the tail. Now, Trevor, that might not mean anything to you, but Dr. Glass, you would recognize Esper. They walk by, and you see the galley where the second-class crew can sit and eat. You see her led to a table there.
Is there someplace private I could pull Trevor into to speak with him secretly for a moment?
Your room is private.
All right, then. And we're almost there, right?
I would say so, and I would also say at this point, Nihilus, you're probably back there as well, given the state of things outside.
He is inside the room as the others would approach. Even through the doors, you would start to hear the end of a prayer. Dear Divine Guide, as we sail through these heavy mists, we entrust our voyage into your steady hands. Illuminate our path with your unwavering light, so that we may navigate the unknown with courage and faith. Amen.
Dr. Glass sighs at the doorway and says, "Oh, we are going to have to get rid of Father Prettyboy for a few minutes, because I have some things to tell you, Trevor. But this first part, I think you'll just have to see. Come on in." And as she's opening the door, she knocks on it and says, "Knock, knock," and then goes in without pausing.
Come in. How did it go?
All right. Thank you. It could have gone worse. It could have been more fruitful. We seem to be all right for the moment, but we don't have a lot of information further on the saturation, I'm afraid. But first things first, Trevor, give me that thing. And she gestures for the gun.
You still have it in your...
For the moment. And Trevor, sorry about that, Trevor. I didn't want you to be contradicting yourself in front of them, and I think the more we keep you out of this, the better. I didn't like the way he was treating you, frankly. And she, pointing the gun away from them all, she tries to empty it of bullets.
You do so. It's fully loaded, and as you get rid of each bullet, it's a revolver style. What do you do with them?
She puts the bullets in her pocket.
Okay.
She says to the others, "I'm going to plant this someplace where it can just be found. So hopefully all our stories are corroborated, and we can convince them that this idiot just lost his gun and then lashed out."
That was way better than my plan.
What was your plan, pray tell?
Well,
I'd like to hear it.
go to Mr. Gray and threaten him with a gun.
My plan, I do believe, is better for the moment, but I like how you think, and this will play into that conversation I wanted to have with you. On that note, good father, brother, whatever we're supposed to call you.
I'm an inquisitor.
Oh.
Although... shall I step out of the room?
You must be a mind reader as well, because that's just what I was going to ask.
Right. I do hope that both of you know what you're getting yourselves into.
Well, what fun would that be, Inquisitor?
Alright. Alright, let me get my things. I'll be back later. Please don't do anything rash, would you? Be ashamed to end our travels quickly. he says with a bit of concern on his face, although he puts some trust into both of you. He grabs some of his more important things and goes on his way and doesn't really know where to go, but he needs to get out of there quickly.
Once he's gone, she says, Good, that was an improvement. He's learning. Now, Trevor, there are a few things. You haven't had to do that much bodyguarding since I've hired you, as you probably noticed. And I think that may be about to change, just based on what's already happened. And I don't like at all that we've already been separated. You've never inquired too much into exactly what I do, other than, see my patients and all of that. You seem to have an awareness, though, that I am unusually talented, let's say.
I mean, yeah, sure. I see you talking with colleagues. I mean, it's big words, so I'm assuming it's important.
Yes. I did want to take a moment now to share something with you that I think will help us, and I don't want you to be alarmed when I do. So have whatever reaction you want right now while it's just the two of us. And
Oh no, I am a bit on the curious type, but just to rest my mind, would you mind if I take a look at the equipment itself? I'm utterly curious, purely professionalism.
at the pistol?
Oh yes, it's quite remarkable making. I've not seen much of that before, and
Is that the equipment you meant?
I'd say it sparks my interest.
And she would like to appraise him, perhaps insightfully. Did he just happen to remember the gun, or did he hear what she just said and think she was about to show Trevor a piece of equipment?
You did hear actual footsteps leaving and coming back. Looks like he changed his mind based on that.
Based on what I said, or?
Oh no, based on him actually hearing footsteps going away and coming back. Yeah.
She kind of nods to Trevor. She says, yes, of course, come in. And then kind of nods to Trevor, indicating that he should get between him and the door, between Nihilus and the door, just to block the path. I suppose you can look at it, but then it's best for you both, that you not know what I do with it. So
Right.
I will have you hand it back to me right away. But if there's any insights you can give us about it,
Of course, this is merely of theoretical interest. Let's put it like that. As he opens up his testimonium, and he will inspect the gun, and through the readings of the many material that is in it, the wordings on some of the book itself will start to line up and even shift and move a little bit. Although he doesn't try to show the book to everyone, it's easy to see as well. And he, as he puts his hand on the weapon and inspects it thoroughly, will cast Identify on it.
In this world, is going to give you a slew of information, that's for sure. But it's not like traditional D&D Identify that basically reads as a textbook to the item. What you do know is the properties of this gun. You note that it's made with 10% gold and the rest of a hardened steel. In fact, your Identify would tag that the steel has been treated, breamed, one might say. And you're familiar with broom to some extent. It's a very expensive element that's mined in Crow Perch. Anything treated with it is typically stronger, as well as resistant to corrosion. You can surmise from this information immediately that this was crafted delicately somewhere on the island of Crow Perch. The gun is still a mundane gun. It's not a magical item or an artifact of any kind. It is just a very, very fancifully made, expensive piece. And that's all you can get.
Very interesting motion as he does this. As it starts off as a normal inspection, slowly he starts even close his eyes and then speak about the small prayer, as it's almost as if the words from the book itself start to ingrain into him, and they will speak the intelligence and the information that he is receiving from this item. And he says all of these properties out loud, and afterwards he simply says, "O Heavenly Protector, please allow us an opportune moment to advance through this journey without any major issues, without any uncertainties." And after sharing that information, thank you for that. What can I say? The cat got the best out of me.
Well, I've known that cat myself, so I appreciate the information.
You're planning on having it be publicly founded? That's a bit suspicious now, isn't it?
Not the way I'll have it found, but they need to know without a shadow of a doubt that Trevor does not have this gun. None of us have this gun. If I were to simply throw it overboard, then that suspicion would still linger on Trevor, I'm afraid.
That sounds like a vast theory. Oh, well, I'll be out of your way. Apologies for that, and me a thank you as well.
Much appreciated.
As he stands before Trevor, looking up.
Oh, yes, you can let him out now, Trevor, sorry.
Do appreciate that, good man.
Just before you walk over to let him out, you hear a knock at the door.
She just bites a little, almost a show of irritation on her face, just thinking, I'm never going to get to finish this conversation with Trevor. She says, "Who is it?"
Oh, hello, miss. I just wanted to come and check on things here. We had a chance to speak to our wonderful captive guest, and it seems like we might have resolved everything. Just wanted to give a quick conversation to tidy up.
Oh, and perhaps, obviously, she's not holding the gun currently. Like, she put it in her pouch before opening the door.
Put it in the pouch? Okay.
Nihilus covers the bullets on the table with his cloak.
They're in her pocket.
Excuse me, miss. I would like to open the door and speak to you in person. Is there a reason for the delay?
Is there a reason for the delay? Wow. We are bold on this ship, aren't we? And she... Now they're going to think I'm not presentable, but I'm with both of you? What is that? All right.
We were doing a mere prayer. Please come in.
Ah, thank you so much. He opens the door and walks in. Now, again, I realize you're seeing far too much of me for a comfortable trip. Most of the time, guests never even get to see me. I guess that's a gift. I'm kidding. Look, we have been looking for... Oh, you, sir. Well, I don't have your name. I apologize. T. It starts with a T.
Trevor.
Yes, Trevor. If you don't mind, we need to talk to you in private. There seems to have been some sort of incident, which you're very well aware of, and I'm not qualified completely myself to resolve it. So you'll have to speak to somebody higher up, unfortunately.
Well, you want me to say the same thing I told the captain?
Yes, that would be fantastic. Just say the same thing, and hopefully this will all brush right past us. Of course, with the matter of an assault, we really can't let this thing just go away. We have to do our due diligence, report it to the authorities at Port Hillcrest. A further investigation would come into play. We like to make sure our guests are kept safe, and we severely fell short of that expectation with you, despite the fact that you were somewhere you weren't supposed to be. Well, let me just say, once this man came to, he had a severely differing story about the situation, which warrants some more consideration amongst the crew and those involved in investigating.
I mean, sure. You'd think this would be open and shut after he... I don't know how these things work.
Sounds like his little story has spread. You'd best go nip that in the bud, Trevor. Just be yourself. And she takes his hand, says, "We'll meet for dinner and chat some more and maybe play some cards." And while she's holding his hand, she looks him right in the eyes. And she speaks into his mind with her mind for the first time ever. And says, "This is what I wanted to show you before, Trevor. Don't be alarmed. I think we may need it. So I'm telling you now. Also, don't forget that I believe in you. You're strong in so many ways." And he gets bardic again.
Nihilus is watching them profusely stare into one another's eyes from a distance. as he relinquishes the moment.
Esper, from the table you're sitting at, you can see the door that's left open to the galley, and you see a door to one of the cabins open, with some kind of commotion happening there. But just as you see that, a waiter comes over. Saltstone baked bread, made from imported grains, and baked on a slab of saltstone. One of the captain's select dishes. Here you are.
Sure.
Inside the room. So, if you don't mind, Trevor, there are 2 men in the hallway who will be escorting you to a room where we will have our discussion.
Sure, I'm not sure I need protecting, but all right.
Go on. I'll speak briefly to Dr. Glass and Mr. Von Stonen here once you are on your way.
And she pats his, I guess not shoulder, I guess elbow, as he goes.
Do you step into the hall and join the 2 men?
We will go with them.
They would immediately begin to lead you into the galley of the second-class cabin, where you walk by the same person that walked by you earlier, who's currently eating a very fancy meal, and they walk by to a side room. It almost looks like a broom closet entrance, but when they open the door, you notice it's a large storage room. Inside, there's mostly storage, of course, but there is a table set up and chairs, and it looks to be a space that the crew might use to hang out in between shifts. That's where they lead you. It's right off the galley there. Inside the room. So, I did want to speak to you both in private after Mr. Trevor here has left.
Is this about the champagne?
Excuse me?
Captain Strand said that to, make up for this inconvenience putting me and Mr. Van Stonen together, that you were going to have some of his finest champagne brought to the cabin. But it's not here yet.
You don't have to roll a deception check, because he is so flustered by this situation that he looks out and gestures to the other guard who didn't follow Trevor. Yes, that sounds like something the captain would have asked for, and of course, it is on its way. Please go and fetch it for us. And the other man leaves, heading to the galley and towards the kitchen.
Excellent. Finally, something gets done. Well, thank you for stopping in and making sure that got taken care of.
Yes, my pleasure, but there is something else I needed to discuss. It's regarding your bodyguard, Trevor. Now, I regret to inform you that the man who was involved in this assault has created a completely separate chain of events leading up to this situation. The issue is that he is a belowborn. Let me just put it this way. He is a very well-regarded person of a high establishment, esteem, one might say. In a situation where there are 2 differing sides to a story, unfortunately, it's people like Trevor who sometimes end up unfairly, I will say unfairly, in trouble. I just wanted to let you know.
She looks at Nihilus, just wondering if any of that's news to him. Like, she's about to mock how obvious a statement that is, but instead she takes it as an opportunity to learn something about Nihilus. What's his reaction to that?
You would definitely recognize an initial face of empathy and sadness. It's something that you can definitely notice on his face that he has seen and experienced before, although there is a slight hint of differences as he twists his eyebrow. There's a slight hint of it is still something new. So he does actually speak up and say, this man who claims to be assaulted, having a whole different kind of story, I suppose. Is he of a specific house?
You're regarding to Mr. Todd Gray, the recipient of Trevor's fist.
Correct. I am not familiar with the gentleman, but from the way how you're speaking about him, he does seem of higher importance the way how... I'm merely curious.
Of course. He is of House Vanthorn. Now, if you're not familiar, which I don't blame you, the goings-on at Crowperch aren't the most public, especially in Port Hillcrest. It's behind the wall where most of the politics happens. House Vanthorn is one of the wealthiest houses on the island, if not the. In fact, of all houses that control power, they're one of the few to originate from Sablemere, unlike the others that have some semblance of power at Crowperch as well. House Meridian, House Scalder, they can't hold a torch to Vanthorn in terms of power and influence.
I see. The Islands of Crowperch definitely has its own dynasty, this I understand. Before things shoot out of hand, if a man who is part of his job is to help find solutions to delicate situations, if I might offer a different point of view, especially with the adversaries that we have coming ahead and the difficulties of the task of the ship itself, I'm sure the captain doesn't want any more troubles on his hand. Seeing as Trevor has already been forced to demote to a lower class and the common rooms, might it be an easier solution that for now simply the gentlemen shall keep space from one another until the House Vanthorn shall put their own decidement once we reach shores, and surely then we can decide further on how to proceed.
Go ahead and roll persuasion.
For a total of 4.
You see an immense strain on his face, almost like your words are cutting into his day and what he intends to be doing. And he expresses, "For a man of the testimonium, I see no reason why you can't be present as a spiritual guide, at least, to Mr. Trevor. But I must insist that your guidance should extend only on the spiritual matters. Is that understood?"
As the sun itself.
Wonderful. You can escort with me to Trevor's room. I'm sorry, Dr. Glass, what was it?
This Todd Gray that is apparently so much more esteemed and regarded than myself or my friend. Would he by any chance be the person who received the suite that I booked?
I would have to check the records on that, Dr. Glass. It's not something I would know off the top of my head. However...
Oh.
And if you'd like to roll an insight on that, you're more than welcome.
I would love to, yes, if I may. And that is a 25 insight. That's more like it.
He genuinely seems uncertain about that matter, but upon thinking about it a bit more, he seems to have caught a thought mid-sentence that changed his mind, and that's what led to him saying, "Actually, no, he's not the one." That does imply to you that he does know the one.
And who would it be that I might approach him and make sure he knows there are no hard feelings, that it's not his fault that the staff overbooked?
I would certainly love to give you that information, Dr. Glass. However, you must understand it's policy to not share the personal information about those who are traveling with us, especially those in the first-class cabins.
What class are we in, by the way, Wes?
You're in the second class. You did book a first-class cabin. You got to a second-class room, and then they also said that Trevor wasn't going to be able to stay, so...
Of course, yeah.
There is a chain of demotions of living accommodations that has happened here.
Oh, yes. And just finally, poor Trevor, you could probably tell. He is such a sweet soul. Whom is it that he needs to convince of the correct story? Is there a tribunal, or what? Is he in the brig?
There's no brig. He will be returning to his sleeping accommodations as long as everything goes smoothly.
May I make a suggestion?
Are you making a suggestion or just a suggestion?
Capital S.
Okay, you can make a suggestion.
No, she is casting suggestion. She says, "May I make a suggestion?" Also, she is casting suggestion.
That's a save. What is his save amount?
It's actually only 13 right now. My spell save. Wisdom, yeah. But if he fails, he doesn't know that I was trying to cast this.
You see his eyes, and they look into yours. They sink into your eyes, and for a moment you see his eyes dilate, and he seems open to your suggestion. Yes, what kind of suggestion did you have in mind?
Now, Dr. Glass doesn't think this guy is the decision maker, but she's seen him going all here and there, to and fro. So she says, "This person who can discern things that you mentioned, I suggest you bring him here to meet me as soon as possible, so I can get acquainted."
Yes, I think it might be best that you just speak one-on-one. Obviously, it has to be a private meeting. I'll see what I can do right now.
You're so clever and so helpful. Thank you. Is there a card I can fill out to praise your service? 1 to 4.
You can always send a recommendation over to the captain, and he'll be sure to reward my efforts. Now, I must be going because I need to arrange a meeting right now.
Good lad.
And without saying another word, he turns, almost mechanically, and walks through the door.
Quite convincible, Doctor.
I have my ways, and I have my ways of knowing when to use them, and on whom to use them. That fellow is... In any event, I do have one favor to ask of you, Nihilus. Just one more thing. Could you close your eyes?
He grasps his book firmly, holds it tight, closes his eyes.
And she casts invisibility and leaves.
Nihilus, you open your eyes. Actually, we should still do it for D&D rules. Please roll a stealth check with advantage.
18.
You open your eyes, Nihilus, and the room is empty.
There's a hint of a smile on his face. Quite interesting, Doctor, as well. And he goes to follow where he believes Trevor would be.
You walk out of the room and through the door to the galley, and again, Esper, you see now this man of God walk by and into this broom closet.
Could I just,
Mm-hmm.
as all of this has been going on, anybody who happens to see this halfling at this big table getting served the finest of cuisine on this ship would probably notice that Esper seems incredibly uneasy and looking around. She has particular interest in where the gigantic man went, but also Esper can't quite stop herself from taking advantage of just how fancy her meal is, and you can occasionally see her very happily using these, what for her are big forks and knives, cutting daintily into this bread and taking a quick little bite and basically hamming up this meal as much as she can. She is watching all of you, except for Dr. Glass because she can't see her, approach this door.
As you walk in, Trevor, I'm going just a moment back. There are a couple of workers in the room who seem to be talking, and they don't pay much mind originally because this room is one that's used by a lot of different people, even some passengers, who know the crew or who are freely able to go about, can stop in at times. So they continue leaning against the wall and talking. And as you walk in, Trevor, and sit down at the table, the guard doesn't actually follow in with you. He seems to wait outside the door. You overhear this conversation.
Yeah, they have me moving boxes once we get there. Got a bad back. It's really something I've been asking them not to do.
Listen, just move one box, a small one, put it down, go take a smoke break. We have unions for a reason. All right, take your time and just fly under the radar. It's easier than actually having to address it with somebody higher up. I don't know, man. This job wasn't supposed to be so hard. It's alright. Look, House Gaspard is the one that does most of the lifting anyway. If you just do what you're told and pretend to move, they actually get the boxes on and off very quickly. Alright, well, I guess I'll try. But if I get in trouble, I mean, obviously I'm just gonna be in trouble, but I'm gonna have a word with you. Come on, man. We've been doing this for a while. You're not gonna get in trouble. He looks over to the right. You, what are you doing here? You belong here?
That's where they told me to wait. Sorry, what was you talking about? Boxes just leaving them?
I've got a bad back. And when they ask me to move boxes, I could just throw it out. Then I'm out of work for months. What was the point then? I'm not getting paid, and I hurt myself.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, you're a passenger. It's okay. I shouldn't be asking you for help anyway.
I mean, honestly, I'm barely a passenger. You know, they got me down in the common area. They got me. I mean, really, I'm only here on behalf of someone I work for. So really, I'm just an employee like you.
You see him strongly thinking about it. He's heavily in contemplation. I'll tell you what. If we get there, and you're able to do this, I'll give you a gold piece. I get paid pretty well for this, and it's just a day's work, as opposed to the whole trip. It's more than enough. I'm happy to, honestly. Man, I like this guy. Yeah, look, we gotta get back. Well, alright. Hey, what was your name again?
My name's Trevor.
Trevor. I'm gonna call you Trev. I like you, man. He walks out of the door.
House Gaspard, right?
Yeah, they do most of the work anyway. You just have to stand around, is what I'm told. But if you're moving boxes too, doing my part, it'll look good.
Sounds good. Hey, what's your name, man?
Ken.
I'm gonna call you Ken.
Thanks, man. And he steps out. As he walks out, Nihilus von Stonen walks in. The guard standing outside stops you for a second, Nihilus. Look, I understand, I heard. You're going to be representing this man from the religious side of things. As soon as the assistant to the captain comes back, conversation will start. Take it easy, there's nothing to worry about. But once you go in there, I have to keep all movement to and from this door at a minimum. You got that?
It's absolutely understandable, sir. And I hope you're doing quite alright. I understand with the recent changes, it's quite a tremendous task that's befallen to everyone.
Yeah, wish this didn't happen, but job's a job, right? Go ahead. He opens the door.
Sometimes that's how life goes.
He opens the door to usher you in.
God bless you, true soul.
Of course. You step in, you see Trevor sitting at the table, and we'll say some time goes by. At this point, the movement to and from this broom closet has slowed down. Esper, you've gone through several courses of meals. You've had saltstone baked bread, moonflower tea, and a sea silk pasta. All of it very delicious and a little bit off in terms of flavors, but as the waiter told you, it's mostly cultural foods to Crow Perch, as the captain is a native.
She is enjoying most of it. The pasta in particular, it was good, and yet at the same time it seemed like she had a little bit of difficulty getting used to that slight funk. But all the same, there's those moments of her in clear enjoyment of being fancy for a little bit while she watches the commotion with the door.
Dr. Glass, you turned invisible. Where did you go?
Shout out to the savvy listeners. I have realized that I did just cast 2 concentration spells in a row. Perhaps I throw myself upon the mercy of the DM for first session jitters, and perhaps that attendant fulfilled my suggestion really, really fast.
You cast invisibility, and you're a savvy mind, heavily trained, and you notice, maybe in hindsight, that your focus is starting to become a bit divided. Now, you're invisible for the time, but you're having a lot of trouble straining on both at the same time. You'd have to choose after some time, let's say 5 minutes or so.
Great. Thank you. And yes, I would rather take a penalty than have our listeners think I don't understand concentration. But I don't need to be invisible long. She goes as quickly as she can to... Now, we're entirely enclosed, right? We're not outdoors at all. We're in a hallway.
No, you're inside, and at this point, if you take a peek out of the window, nothing is visible. That white, thick fog comes right up to the window, and that's it.
So she's just going to look around for someone who looks like a real narc. A staff member who would find a gun and immediately deliver it to the captain.
Okay.
Not that same attendant, because there's been too much FaceTime.
Of course. I would say go ahead and roll investigation.
7.
It's hard to find anybody, really. The crew seems to be preoccupied. It's almost a ghost town. You just see passengers and those who were involved in this incident. But after going down some of the doors, you notice one of them isn't a cabin for quarters, but instead looks a bit like an office. And in the room, you see a dwarvish man, his head hunched over a table, writing frantically something. And on the wall, you see a calendar, you see some calculating devices. You can tell this person seems like a numbers guy.
Nice. All right, then I can't cast another spell while I'm doing this, certainly. She's going to place the gun quietly on the ground, right in front of the doorway. And then she's going to step away from the doorway, 30 feet away, and she's going to drop invisibility, and her spectral, shadowy hand is going to just push the door open a bit so it creaks and catches his attention.
Oh? Hey.
You hear a creak of the chair dragging across the floor and some footsteps.
What's this?
And you hear the gun being picked up off the ground, and you hear the door close again.
She makes a note of where this room is. She's going to hope that worked and that was the right person to do that with. And then she's going to look for a portal or something that can or a door that can access the outside.
In this case, all of the doors of the sleeping quarters of the second-class cabins connect through the galley to the outer second-class deck. You could also go back around the stairwell and make your way down and out to the commoner's deck.
I think while invisible, that would be too noticeable and memorable, especially being loud on the stairs. So it's that I just have to go through the galley to get to it?
Yes, you'd go through the galley, and you know you'd be passing Esper, and that's really the only person besides the guard who's there.
On this level? That's fine. That's perfect, then. She's going to go into the galley and have a seat, and when she gets a chance, she's going to mage hand those bullets out the door or window and into the sea.
Okay. You step into the galley, and you sit down at one of the tables. Esper is located actually right next to the door. That's where her table is. There's another one that's just across the room. And awkwardly, of course, the guard stands watch right outside of the door with his hands crossed in quite a typical fashion. As you sit down, you see Esper. Esper, you see Dr. Glass.
Dr. Glass observes her. Hopefully her expression is difficult to read, as it often is. Just impassively. She wonders if Esperanza knows who she is, knows that Dr. Glass has written about her a million years ago. Was wondering why she is here, and with everything else happening, she's a little concerned that someone like Esper is on this ship.
And DM, you said that Esper sees Dr. Glass as well?
Yep, you're sitting across from one another, and almost perfectly dividing the two of you, the guard stands watch at the door across the room.
Esper's like sitting there like mid-chew, cocking her head to the side at this woman who's staring at her. And after a while, her eyes drift to the door that Trevor was put behind as well, and then back, and it's kind of a bit of a back and forth.
The guard looks just ever so briefly at the two of you, opens the door and walks in. He looks over at Trevor. I don't know. They seem like they might know each other, might not. I felt kind of awkward. I'm gonna stand in here for a bit. He gets the chair, pulls it out, sits in front of you, pulls out a deck of cards and puts it on the table. Fancy a game? Esper and Dr. Glass, you're both alone in the room.
Evening, dear.
Can I help you?
Oh, it just seemed awkward, you know. The two of us in this big empty hall. I just wanted to be neighborly. Sorry if I did it wrong. Sometimes I have a little bit of an unnerving effect on people at first, but...
Bread?
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm starving.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. And she's putting another shovel of food in her mouth. I just had to annoy somebody enough, and then I decided that we're going to give me a captain's dinner.
Oh, this is pretty good, actually.
Very good. Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll try something like that.
Say, you don't happen to be a local to the island, do you?
No, I went once as a little girl with my family, but not a native at all. Why'd you ask?
Something is bothering me about this mist, this saturation. I don't know enough about it myself to really be able to say, but I get the feeling something's a little wrong about it, you know, when you just get a feeling.
I do know.
Oh.
You're very wise to pay attention to those feelings. So many people will tell us to ignore them.
Captain could learn a thing or two from you.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one thinking it. You spoke with the captain?
Yeah, another piece of bread, tears a chunk off. I went to go and try and tell him about it. I thought if anybody, he would know, you know? So maybe he'd be able to hear me out a little bit, but I guess he wasn't really interested.
It might have just been that he has no idea what to do and he's scared shitless.
Not a good thing for a captain to be, I would hope.
No, I don't think anything about this is good.
They said it was coming early, but I don't know, isn't that like really, not even strange, but just like really bad?
Yes, it's bad for many people just unto itself. Certainly for those who didn't want to spend that much time on the island. Actually, for me, it might be wonderful. They told me that they were going to pay for my lodgings on shore because of a mix-up, and I don't think they knew when they said that how long it was going to be.
Get what you can when you can get it.
Yes, but that's not what you're asking. I apologize for joking.
Oh, don't worry about that. It's a little calming, I guess. It's a distraction from the worry.
And from bad dreams, maybe?
I mean, you can't really do much with a dream.
I wouldn't know, but I suspect otherwise. I'm so sorry I haven't introduced myself. Dr. Isadora Glass.
Oh, a doctor?
Yes. Of the mind and its ailment.
Hold her hand out for a shake after she dusts breadcrumbs off of it.
She takes it. Presses it, even.
Esper's grip itself is also quite strong, even if it is small.
I think you maybe do hear a little crack of knuckles.
I know it's a little rude, but I have a question and I'm not going to be able to really rest easy, at least until I ask it.
Go right ahead.
Do you happen to know somebody named Dr. Faust?
Wes, I assume I've heard of Dr. Faust, but, I mean, or maybe not. I don't think she knows him, but...
Yeah, Dr. Faust is not somebody you might have met directly, but you would have heard his name. Well regarded amongst the industry, but also well rumored to be well regarded for reasons that aren't related to his work. Definitely he moves up the chain because of his background and status, more so than his success. And he has rumors of way over medicating his patients to a dangerous level at times.
That's what I thought. I've heard of him. I don't know him personally. Our work has intersected, I suppose, depending on how you want to look at it. I disagree with some of his methods, surely, but then people disagree with mine. Why do you ask?
It's been sprung upon me, I guess you could say, that I'm going to have to give him a visit when we dock, and I don't want to.
Who's telling you you have to?
Dr. Faust himself, I think. I think he stepped in, and I'm going to have to see him to get what I'm actually going to the island for. Is there any advice you might be able to give me to tell him enough of what he wants to hear to be able to say that I can go and get what I'm after? Which is just mostly away from him.
Yes, I might be able to help with that, actually.
I'm all ears. Here, have some tea.
Why, thank you. I don't know him personally, but I know his type. Is there anything you can put in this? She just looks around for alcohol. But there's no one here but us, so she just sips her tea. These types, they want to give you medication. They don't want to argue. They want you to be normal. Your best bet, if you're on your own, is to act grateful to see him for his time. Don't argue with him. She catches herself for a second. I wonder if you've been prescribed medications in the past, perhaps the kind that make you sleepy and numb. The ethers, not quick ether, obviously. Zynoquil, perhaps.
Dr. Glass is asking some very pointed questions at Esper. Can Esper attempt to glean anything off of that?
I think so.
I'd say if you want to roll an insight check, I can give you some details.
That's 5.
You don't catch anything in particular, but with a 5, you at least can tell that Dr. Glass seems to know something more than the average person. And while you're having this chat, you begin to hear footsteps, 2 pairs, coming down the hallway where your room is. Followed by a stop, a door opening and closing, and then one set of footsteps heading towards the galley. The footsteps stop and the door to the galley opens. In walks the assistant to the captain. Oh, there you are. The person you were looking to speak to, I have left in your room. They're there, prepared to have the conversation. They'll be waiting for you, but not for long. They obviously are busy people.
Not busy peeping, I hope.
No, somebody of this caliber has no interest in any belongings of yours, believe me.
Wonderful. I planned this out so well, didn't I? And the champagne, is it in there as well?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it is. I left it there on a table set for yourself, and I did provide an extra glass in case you wanted to share it with your guest.
All right, my roommate might also want some when he returns, but that's fine. Don't bring us another glass. You can leave us for the evening.
Wonderful. I do have to go and speak to our friend Trevor. I'll try to be quick about that. Gives a polite nod of the head and walks into the room where Trevor is. Now, Mr. Trevor, I see you have a wonderful game of cards going. I must ask that it stop so we can get through our matters here today.
I was going easy on you because I wanted to, really spring a trap, but apparently that's not going to happen.
Sorry, bud.
So, you win.
No, it's a draw. He stands up. He's already feeling more friendly towards you, and he stands up back to his professional job at the door. the assistant to the captain sits. So, Trevor, I might have put this on to be more than it actually is. The person you've interacted with has a great deal of power, and unfortunately, it means once we arrive at Port Hillcrest, you're going to be under a great deal of scrutiny. I don't know exactly what that's going to end in, but I was to have a more detailed meeting here with you. I find no reason for it. Just suffice to say, be prepared to speak to the powers that be once we land.
All right, fine. I don't feel like I'm in the wrong, so I just tell them what I did, and that should be fine, right?
That sounds like a great plan. Though, the situation on Crowperch isn't often that simple. You might feel it best to take whatever deal they're willing to offer you, and quickly. How do I put this? You've fallen in immediately with the opposite side of the powers that be. Between you and me, I don't see a fair fight, a fair conversation waiting for you at Port Hillcrest.
Very little of my life's been fair anyway, so why should this be any different?
Well, he smacks the table with his hands, almost to break the tension in the room, and stands up. That's really it. You're more than welcome to enjoy the rest of your stay, and we'll be comping all your meals for the rest of the trip. Just don't tell anybody. I thought you might want to feel comfortable. Also, this room that we're in here is going to be made as an extra accommodation for you. Enjoy the rest of your trip, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. I'm sure it's a lot better than being cramped in there. I think I might have made a few enemies down there as it is. Sorry.
Yeah. You see a look on his face of deep concern, and he stands up and gives you a half-hearted smile and leaves the room. And before he completely leaves, he ducks back in for a moment. If you'll give this room over to the guards, they'll arrange everything for you. Should only take but a few hours. We have extra of everything in storage.
Great. Don't mind me if I indulge.
Of course. Safe travels.
Nihilus, as a fair spectator, as the man is about to step away, he approaches him, gives him a little tap on the shoulder, tries to speak in a lower tone, in a bit of a hush-hush situation. Sir, if I can ask you honestly, a man such as him, dear Trevor, you know he's of good soul, but what would you think the punishment would be awaiting him upon docking?
Well, if you were to, let's say, get out of sorts with the king of a kingdom and did something to hurt one of their family, I just consider that the closest example. He should be lucky if he is to live.
I see. Thank you for your honesty. I do appreciate it. And whatever you're providing for the man, what you can for these coming days. I'm sure with the blessing, all that are faithful will be adjusted accordingly.
Of course. So, Dr. Glass, in the meantime, while this was happening, you had a guest waiting for you.
Yes, and I think she needs to do that next. Does she see the attendant leave? She realizes now where Trevor is and that he's just in there.
I would say this is happening simultaneously, so you're on your own for the next 10 to 20 minutes. I don't think your guest would wait that long.
Okay. Almost as soon as the attendant is gone, she's going to stand and maybe make a little bit more of difficulty than she needs to. Says, well, you heard the man. I have to go see some guest who's probably rifling through my underthings as we speak. But come see me. And she writes down her cabin number. Anytime, knock first. I've got an unfortunate roommate. And we can discuss this more. I would very much like to get to know you better, Esperanza. She does not clock that I don't believe Esperanza actually said her name.
No, she didn't say her name.
I don't know if Esper clocks that.
I'll roll for it. I rolled a natural 20 on a perception, if that's okay. For Esper to realize that Dr. Glass knows her name without Esper having to say it.
Dr. Glass gets up and she goes and walks in the wrong direction to the door to the outside and opens it and gets like a face full of salt and coughs. And as she's coughing, Mage hands the bullets, just hurls them over the side, over the edge of the ship into the sea. And then she closes the door again. Like, oh, I got a bit turned around. Wrong door. Well, let's try that again, shall we?
Don't breathe that. Yeah, that's bad.
I did not enjoy that one bit. I'd better get to some of that champagne as soon as possible. Doctor's orders, if I do say so. But it was a pleasure. Thank you for the bread.
Yes. Good night.
Yes, good night, dear.
Dr. Glass, you head towards your room. There, as you get to the door, what do? You haven't opened it yet.
I fling it open unceremoniously without announcing myself. It's my fucking room.
You do so. There's a man standing at the window, his back turned towards you, opulently dressed. You don't need him to turn around to know who he is. The scent of his cologne is already reminiscent. Besides, the back of his head, the color of his hair, everything seems to point to Lord Felix Royce.
She immediately shuts the door again, with herself on the outside, and stands frozen, paralyzed for a moment. And she knows she can't run. There's nowhere to run to, and she also literally can't run. So she's not sure there's anything else to do. What with the display she just made? And she opens the door again. She says, "My, these things are heavy. How do you do, Felix?"
Dr. Glass, it's good to hear your voice again.
I wonder if you remember things it was saying the last time we met.
How could I forget?
Stop, don't, you're mad. What are you doing to me? How could you have done this? Those fun things.
Wouldn't want to make you feel comfortable, Dr. Glass. I hope you don't mind, I already opened your champagne. I left a glass on the table.
Is it poured already, or?
It is. You see his glass is nearly empty. The champagne bottle is sitting to the side, half empty itself, and there's an untouched glass on the table.
Unless something in her mind tells her not to, she's gonna use Mage Hand to grab that glass and raise a toast. Because if he wanted to kill her, he doesn't need poison. He could probably just kill her. Cheers, Felix.
To you.
To me? Why's that? Because you weren't expecting to see me alive?
Let's just say, when all of noble society is aware of the famous Dr. Glass giving private sessions and asking about little old me, word gets around.
Well, I thought you were long gone, Felix. You know I worry about you. We used to be so close.
Close indeed. Is there a reason you intend to seek me? Because I'm right here.
It's all the same things we discussed last time, Felix. What you did to Abelard, what you took from him.
I see.
She does just, she is proficient with the Poisoner's Kit, and I believe she's proficient with champagne. So, does she have an inkling of, does this look and smell normal? She's kind of just holding it.
Roll perception.
Oh, it did advantage because of the echo light, which I don't... Oh, it's a 3 and a 4, so... Either 8 or 9 perception.
You can tell that you didn't get a good bouquet of the smells. You don't know if there's something wrong with it. You can't tell. Now, if I was going to poison you, I would do so much more eloquently, Dr. Glass, don't you think?
I think if you wanted to kill me, you would have killed me in Witchvale. And she sips the champagne.
I take it you don't want to reminisce. Won't make you. So instead, I'll just deliver the message that you asked for when you called for me by beguiling one of the ship's crew. If you seek me out, people will die. Some of which live peacefully on Crow Perch now, some who don't. Don't underestimate my reach, Dr. Glass.
I haven't done that in a while, but you're implying that if I do nothing, people will live. And I'm not sure I believe that, now do I, Felix?
Well, then let me narrow the scope. Do you recall a notable family member? Not one who was involved in the Circle of Whispers, but perhaps should have been.
My family?
Not my family.
What are you on about, Felix?
They've been, well, let's say that they've been seen by doctors. Their condition in talking about some grand entity that communicates with them doesn't come across well to traditional medicine.
I know.
They're safe, of course.
They're alive? She's alive? I haven't seen... You know that I haven't seen her since I was a girl.
Let's just say, if a reunion is in order, it's in your best interest that her doctors do not consider her a danger to others, given her extreme levels of psychosis.
And she puts... Her mage hand puts the glass down and she clutches the head of the cane and takes just a few steps towards him. Why did you do all this, Felix? What does it get you? I still don't understand how it could have been so wrong about you.
In due time, Doctor. It's a small island. People talk, and he begins to walk past you, brushing your shoulder just slightly as he walks towards the door and puts his handle on the doorknob and turns back to you. Oh, and Dr. Glass, you're going to need to do better than Trevor if you're going to try to protect yourself from me.
Leave him out of this. He doesn't know anything.
Anyway, ta-ta, and he opens the door and walks out into the hall.
Did you take my sweet, you brat? And she throws his champagne glass at the door with her mage hand.
And that's a great place to end today's session. Thank you so much for listening to today's video. This is our first ever The Stranger campaign session. And in retrospect, I would say that this is slower. In fact, things pick up significantly in session 2. I'm very excited to share that with you all. But it's no small feat to have made it through what is hopefully to be our roughest first attempt at doing a D&D actual play that's thematic and ambient, spooky at times, though I would say it was lighter in this one. So, regardless, thank you so much for listening, and here's to our first ever episode.